is absolutely wonderful. We'll jump straight on over to our pick and bans for this series. We were talking a little bit about this before, Jackson, in our break. For map selection, we're starting off first with Pearl. Ascent and Fracture were banned off the rip. Icebox and Haven were banned later. You see Lotus as our secondary map and Split for our finale. Overall, I have to think that Baker actually got the better end of this ban phase. I do not think that Columbia made the right choice banning Haven as their final ban. I harped on this a little bit before with you. They are an exceptionally powerful team for this map, but I think Cumberland Destiny, their B team, is slightly better for it. But we've seen Cumberland Phoenix tear apart ridiculously good teams in the map of Haven, and going to Split instead, something that they're maybe not as experienced with. They've shown that they have weaknesses for it. They obviously have close losses against WVU for that, for West Virginia University. I don't know if it's going to be enough of a leeway against a team like Baker College to feel super comfortable heading to that. But Pearl and Lotus, they stink at Pearl. This is arguably their worst map for them. But Lotus, they are so darn good. It's oppressive.
And I mean, the only reason I can think of for Cumberland Phoenix to allow Split to go through, it was shocking to me at first, because not only is Cumberland Phoenix pretty good at Haven, but Baker College is notoriously struggles on Haven, right? So you would think that they would want to have a map where they would have the advantage, but perhaps it's because that Baker College has won Split basically every time they've played it so far in this tournament. So I'm assuming there's a lot of information that the Phoenix were able to catch out. They weren't exactly like blowout matches either on Split, so perhaps they have a good idea of what Baker College's playbook might be going into that deciding map.
And the agent selection overall for this map isn't too crazy either. Cumberland like to play the Jet, the Vice, Tejo. They like an Astra, like a KO, right? They don't really stray too far from familiarity for this map. They're not one of those teams that steps in with the big Yoru play. We've seen Yorus, we've seen Phoenixes, right? They're not one of those teams that steps into that. But Baker does. They really do like the Yoru, and you see Demon looking over to pick that. Astra as well. Astra's exceptionally powerful for Pearl, so you don't see any big changes. Sova is a big difference overall. They don't like to use the Teo. They still like to stick to that central Sova and KO combination. And then for their central choice, they go KJ. I think overall, Cumberland, this is one of the few maps where it feels like they are doing something a little bit different. Obviously, a reach for the new, having Teo employed, but Teo's kind of getting employed everywhere. But they're a team that kind of defaults back. They're one of the best Ascent teams you'll see in collegiate, and their win percentage typically construes that. But they don't play any of the new style of Teo. They don't bring out the newer agent selection a lot of teams do. They win off of simple, still using the Jet, still using Silver, right? They want to play the default of what they know for Ascent, and it feels like Pearl is a little bit of that, with the value of having that Teo still over. In the same way when they move over towards Lotus, where you assume that they'd have a Teo, but most of the time they don't actually bring it. So this is one of the few times we see them try to really bring in a bit of that new. But no major changes either for the Baker side. Like I was mentioning, the KO, the KJ, the Astra, which Nami is yet to lock in, but likely will be the obvious choice. And then the Yoru. The big difference is going to be, can Demon create enough opportunities off of the strange play style that Yoru can bring? The constant TP over, the movement, the viability for separating sight lines, the quick flashes and information you get off of your ultimate that's basically a VTOL, right? Like, that's where your difference maker has to be in comparison to, say, the Jet for Cumberland's side.
Yeah, and speaking of Demon, I think this is going to be a very important map for him. He's been struggling a little bit to start the CVAL tournament, but in the last couple of games, he's been putting up unreal first kill to first death ratio. Pretty much a lot of the rounds that Baker wins is snowballing off of those picks that he can get. And so for them to start on attack on Pearl, which is kind of a side that they struggle on, it's going to be very important to get Demon rolling early.
Well, get the ball rolling early. We just saw this map previously in the prior series, and we saw things go a little bit wrong in the second half for, well, not for WVU. They ended up taking the victory, but for the opposing side. And that's something I think Baker College are going to want to avoid when it comes to their second half. But this is a map that they were comfortable enough to choose. And Cumberland Phoenix, I have not seen anything too crazy. They gave up like 9 rounds against a Georgia Red roster, which is Georgia's secondary team roster, and Phoenix absolutely trounced their primary roster, right? Like, they were this secondary team put up the most rounds on them in that league. This is something that Cumberland Phoenix probably wanted to avoid, but they also just didn't know the maps prior in the ban selection phase, so they had to kind of pick the worst of the two. And I really like that Baker at least look prepared taking that ban phase that way and picking this map first, as they will also get the first blood to strike. player did DC, but it's not too big of an issue. J-Phone looking to maybe prowl about. J-Phone and map control is like the #1 thing it feels like for Cumberland Phoenix. You'll see it later on map 2, but you'll see it a lot here as well. They just want to try to get in the face, try to dictate the tempo, find those first frags or a refrag if possible, since they've lost to here for round 1, and just try to make it so that Baker College can't play in for the numbers advantage right off the rip and just go, okay, we're brawling as much as possible down through alley, or maybe a rush in through art instead.
Yeah, and I love that early takeover of mid coming out from Baker College. Usually on Pearl, the default attack is just slam B until something works, but coming out with something different off the bat, we see now it's going to be a B split coming through Link as well, and it doesn't look like Phoenix have gotten the correct read on the execute. They are able to leave site, however, because of the shear wall that will trip and let Phoenix know that the hit is actually coming to B.
30 seconds left.
Well, they're gonna have to make the rotate fairly quickly here. They'll have all 4 players that are still remaining to do so, but Vice Wall goes off, like you mentioned, it gives a bit of information, and the team will start to rotate in. The question will be, how many will split off? Likely a 2-2. Maybe you have 1 player go all the way through Disco, but timing will be a little bit tight for that rotate. They're going to stack 3 players close to Spike before falling back off of Spike. Keep in mind, it is a pistol round, so guns don't have... there's no advantage, truly, in capacity, and the overall utility that is available will be limited, if any. But you do have that Arc Rose, maybe looking to use that off in towards back Cubby. Wadi will take a couple steps back, really worried about that 0-point sent out from Baker. No one yet having been pushed, but finally J-Phone tries to get out into the open. Wadi does get one. Nobody has dealt with a player back of Cubby, though, and it's created too many easy sight lines for Baker College to hold on to this point. Yes, you have a Yor who's exceptionally low right now, but JV's not looking so hot either. And in a 1v3, it's just an inevitability at this point, as Baker College will conclude with that first blood in the final, with 3 players left standing, and will be plenty pretty, especially getting those ult orb economy in the early stages of poking both sites at the start of round 1.
It looks like we're going to have a little bit of a tech pause as we are having some connection issues with some of the players. But let's revisit that round from the top. We said it, or at least I pointed out that Demon had to start strong, and you see already 3 kills on the board. He was also the one that got that first pick mid, and they were able to snowball off of that. Now, the good thing is, because they were able to take that mid control, Scott, they were able to lurk over onto Link, and that in that way able to split that Vice Wall over onto the B site, even though they did get delayed a little bit trying to plant the spike, but so much heavy positioning being gained by them. The only thing that I'm a little concerned about from that first pistol round, even though it's just pistols, it's because you have double initiators still alive, and I didn't really see too many initiation coming out from them. They kind of just swung out one by one, trying to take fights. Wadi coming there with 2, but not really setting up their team for more.
Overall, Cumberland Phoenix fell for a lot of the bait that was going towards A, and the slow, methodical approach from Baker College has now put them in a position where you just kind of lap up small victories throughout the round, right? First blood, no refrag back. Cumberland Phoenix put 2 players through door in an attempt to try to reclaim that. Obviously, nothing there for them. Baker take that chance to move over to grab Orb over towards Disco, top of B ramp. They're playing this long game. They're trying to find instantaneous value that will eventually work in these later rounds. So they're playing the long con, which is the right idea against a team at this caliber, or any team at this caliber, but especially so for Cumberland Phoenix, who are one of the teams that tends to have so much map knowledge that you'll hardly ever see a smoke go down without them perfectly spraying through at the right angle for a step across, right? They just read into things level by level at a point that can really throw teams out of their rhythm, which is where their specialty lies. But round 1 was obviously a great success point for Baker College. You have the VTOL, the dimensional drift, a whole lot closer to being tallied up. Get some things over towards Nami. Maybe get that Cosmic Divide online a little bit sooner, which should guarantee you a round, or at least make the initial rifle rounds a whole lot harder for Cumberland Phoenix. Look, Phoenix playing for their own little battle there for the orb economy. They play into A, get the instant value. B long's been completely given up for their sightline, but so has Spike been left in attacker spawn. They want to play in, force Phoenix to say, okay, we know we're at a weak point for weapons. How many players, how many numbers can we send at the problem and hope we make some semblance of a step in the right direction?
You see engagements happening mid. Demon also spotting out JP there over on Heaven. I think at this point, that's enough information to know that the B site is the weaker site, especially with the Recon Dart pinging 3 on main. Now, ladder moves, has to make sure they get at least 1. They find 2, but that gives up the Spectre for Wadi to recover.
Yeah, and Baker College say, okay, let them have it. Let them eat. We have another flank brewing up ourselves, and this is the perfect chance to take down two, and there it is, easy as can be, as Demon tallies off for the finale. 2 for Baker College, with only a single player being taken down in that round. I'd argue it's most definitely a round win for the side of Baker College. Not much consolation in the back pocket for Cumberland Phoenix. Maybe just a little bit slow to read in to the map mobility that Baker College have been working with, and their defaulting has been clean throughout first 2 rounds, and likely will continue to be the story as this evolves and moves forward. But Cumberland Phoenix will finally have their first actual rifle round in front of them, and we'll start to see maybe how they actually want to position themselves correctly throughout their defense the remainder of this half, as Baker College will have to close that distance in an exceptional fashion with only the true SMGs, maybe a Bulldog in the back pocket overall, and they gotta hope that the utility can create enough of a gap, and maybe the Yoru would be a great way to do that, to actually incise upon where the Cumberland Phoenix roster are sitting in, as there's one player bottom of alley, that's JP, and you'll likely see J-Phone over to the Vice in the next map. There's a great swing from J-Phone from the KO pop flash that deals with that Yoru who TP'd across. J-Phone looking to get 2, and very well may have a chance for a third. They'll let JP swing nearly immediately afterwards, but Fate's waiting on top of Crate. The swing out has a great gun to counteract it, and even if you lose that, if you're J-Phone, you have another player just right there to kind of clean up house afterwards.
Yeah, and Demon this time going way too deep into the enemy spawn. Nobody there to really trade them out, as J-Phone was able to find 2 there. Now, they do need to try to close the distance with these short-range weapons. Meanwhile, Cumberland Phoenix playing the long game, making sure to maintain distance and maintain control of the map here. 2v5 left over on the side of Baker. I think at this point, you just try to get a plant and maybe some shield damage, Scott.
Where can you find value for the remainder of the round? Both players want to step in through alley into Link, but is this the right idea for them? Stingle will be the first player to peek this. Shooter's up on top of Radianite stack and looking for a free crossfire, but you'll need your back cubby player to take that swing in the same fell swoop. It'll be a double. First one spotted, second one tangential, but Shooter still gets away with that one. Nami can scrape away 1 kill, keeping it from flawless, but at the end of the day, Cumberland Phoenix will be plenty happy with the result. Still maintaining 4 weapons, and that one player will likely be able to buy up at least enough overall scrounging credits across the team to still be very much so fine for the remainder of the round, especially if you can maybe get the Annihilation online. If you're Wadi throughout this round, you'll fight for the orb over towards A. Maybe your team gets a frag in that department as well for the fight that looks like it's brewing up already for Baker College, and then that will make things much easier in the later stages if Baker College are able to get into a site and really demoralize what will be their first proper rifle buy.
Yeah, the ult orb on A main right now is the goal for both teams. As you see, the pain's coming out. Demon really wants to get the Dimensional Rift as well, but Wadi wants to get one. J-Phone and Shooter will find 2 of their picks. So Baker College already getting their push stifled early.
Yeah, this is a suffocating approach for Cumberland Phoenix. They know that they can send 3 to 4 players here, a 4th one nearby just for the utility. Wait out the fight, and then everyone can fall back and rotate. It's easy to rotate on this map over to an opposing side. It feels a little bit like Haven, though a little bit more convoluted towards defender spawn to rotate across. But the speed of the mobility for the rotate is still something that cannot be underestimated for an attacking team trying to get into a site and try to play that long call and stall. Nami in towards B does manage to find a good pick. That's your Vice of JP, who's kind of lagging behind once again towards Link and watching that exit out from Alley. You finally sent Rice all the way through over into B site to get this plant down. But Cumberland Phoenix still have Shooter up above inside Heaven, waiting for a peek immediately there for Rice, dicing up them once again, leaving Baker College just with the 2 remaining. 1 still slow, inside Link trying to rotate in, and Nami direct on site, trying to play back hall and find a valuable frag. But they know Sentry Drone will go off, ladder has been spotted, Cumberland will quickly drop into the position to deal with them, and now it's just Nami, and it's not much of a guessing game to find out where they are. You know they're hiding inside that smoke. There is no stew, and Val and Wadi will easily get the defuse for the Cumberland Phoenix side to tie up this series 2-2.
Yeah, flashes, stuns, all coming down onto Nami there. And it's unfortunate because they were able to take so much space on that pick off of Vice, basically clearing B site by themselves. However, I did not like the positioning coming out from ladder moves there. Still playing double doors mid when they had a turret to kind of watch that, right? You get the B site, Rice Balling gets the plant, but nobody is there to really help watch that last angle that Rice Ball needs to clear, which was Heaven. And that basically, even though they were in a 3v5 disadvantage, it was a series of 1v4s that Cumberland Phoenix were able to just take out easily.
Eco round on the docket for Baker College. Their first rifle round fell through into the docket, so they'll have to try to find something of value, whether that be information about where Cumberland Phoenix likes to play their defense, or a couple frags here or there and get some ultimate tallies online. It does not matter. They'll use the Yoru clone to quickly, bring up the Vice wall and try to bait out that utility, but Shooter's hanging quite close, and yeah, Shooter does exactly that. Takes down Demon, and will put Cumberland Phoenix up for the first blood, and another one almost immediately afterwards as ladder moves go down. J-Phone wants to play in, tries to push through Art, and Annihilation goes online for Cumberland Phoenix, and while no one's there for Baker College, it's not going to keep things too strong. Shooter avoiding most of the damage that comes with an updraft, pocketing out towards Cubby and Link. They get a third frag for themselves in the round, hunting for more. Wadi pushes through with the drone, hoping that they can maybe get a bit of information for Shooter, who's hunting for their fourth kill. But both players, Nami and Riceballen, are trying to hold the tightest of corners. Sorry, Fate trying to hold the tightest of corners. And this will be an easy rotate in for FSAL. That's one player's head. Easy, not the one I was expecting of all things, but the second one soon to fall after a buddy ace between the two of Shooter and FSAL, and it's third for Cumberland Phoenix.
Shooter's gonna shoot right now, putting 3 on the board. Frag leader of the lobby at the moment, and that's all just from patience and crosshair placement. Nothing really setting them up there, but after Shooter got the first pick, all of the utility came through. We saw the armor getting ult to try and make space, perhaps get Shooter another kill, or even just protect them from being pushed. So well done by the rest of Cumberland Phoenix, just watching, making sure that they're able to protect their jet player from getting traded out and giving up a weapon.
Once again, default KJ turret placed in mid. Cumberland Phoenix, the team I said loves to play into map control. Baker College know that. They're trying to counter read it, so they want to have utility there for info. This is where the VTOL, the dimensional drift for Demon, comes out, and they're trying to get as much information as humanly possible, and they'll even TP back to also get intel towards A. Hunter's Fury for Riceballen. Nobody really at the other end of that. You did get maybe a little bit of damage off the tail on Cumberland Phoenix, but past that point, no value for you, and Shooter even shuts down Riceballen, who is still lagging off towards B long. FSAL on site, trying to hold into the back. Ladder moves through a smoke, has no problem finding the tracers from those rounds to deal with them, and Ladder moves will make sure that this wall either goes up or they'll get a frag on a JP nearly moments after, as the salvo from Wadi and a Vandal in their hands gets 2, and Nami's now left alone off towards Art. Close assistance of Cubby from ladder moves, but Wadi, what a round from you. It's 4 to your name, and Cumberland Phoenix, that's 4 rounds to their name as a whole.
And that was a very, very nice trick play coming out from the side of Baker College, using the Dimensional Rift to try and fake a B site execute and then instantly teleporting over to A. But honestly, I believe that round comes off the back of FSAU peeking pretty aggressively on that A angle and realizing, spotting 3 off the bat, realizing that B was a fake almost instantly. And that was what allowed Cumberland Phoenix to honestly rotate quickly to save that round.
How will this next one pan out for Cumberland Phoenix? Keep in mind, it's another eco coming out for Baker College, and while they did have to use an ultimate the round prior with the no command, it's not a big deal for Cumberland Phoenix. Lockdown could be pretty valuable for Baker College if they opted to use it in eco round. If they get 2 frags with not really refrag value back for Cumberland Phoenix, they could get those weapons to their name. That could set them a stage, so to say, to play out for either site they play into. A site would obviously be the preferred in this capacity for a quick, close fight, and hoping for a brawl with a sheriff shot or 2 on a double swing. But Cumberland Phoenix will wisen up off the initial, barrage of utility, the trade for weapon shots, and go, okay, I'm not hearing any rifles across the board. Let's take a couple steps further back, try to play the value for the long distance that we would have with rifles in our hand, and make sure we're not giving up anything for free, especially since if you drop a player and you drop a weapon, that's a rifle they can now have that will likely be a bigger thorn in your side than anything else in the final new 30 to 40 seconds that remain.
Contact being made now on that A main angle, but it is the weak side hit coming out from Baker College. As you see, they're trying to take more control over here on mid. We see the connection on Link. Shooter able to get away with their life, 1 HP, but this gives up a lot of control over onto that mid side as Nami already lurking into the sewers.
Baker College have already moved Spike a little bit too haphazardly towards A. They've gotten a frag here. They'll use the lockdown. Even though they don't really have the space to grab that weapon, they still want to use it to force them away to make the weapon that much more obtainable. And here it is. Shooter having to take pre-fire shots through a smoke that goes up. Does get Demon. Fate, though. Sheriff on the line. Deals with them in a counter frag. And now it's a 2-on-4 from an eco round. FSAL, what can you possibly do from back of sight? Player not too far away. JP hoping to be the main player to watch that sight line. They just have to clear away Nami if at all possible. No command used for Baker College. They put all their eggs in this basket, and there's even a flanking player coming in from JP. What can you do? Head easily visible. The shot's not great from Rice Spawn, but eventually the job gets done, and JP has to somehow make a miraculous recovery. And a 4v1, you just got to try to drop a weapon in the opposing side's hands, but your eco's probably sitting just fine for it. You can get 2, almost 3, but Cumberland Phoenix will eventually fall, and Baker College will get their 3rd round to their tally.
Almost, JP, almost. But that was brilliantly done by Baker College. I mean, investing the ults in an eco round is maybe something that you don't normally do, but recognizing that after getting the 2 picks, they were not going to be able to get those weapons. So if they can't get the weapons, they might as well clear the site with the ult. And of course, these picks come out. That allows Rice Balling to just slowly lurk up on the flank and recover one of the rifles to have that crossfire. It was beautifully done, well disciplined by Baker College to not just swing off of any noise. They really waited until the last possible moment that they needed to swing out to secure that round.
I mean, keep in mind, Cumberland Phoenix, the one thing they're going to want to do is get the weapon to be unavailable for Baker College. They can make a whole lot of noise picking up and throwing it behind him, or they're going to try to hold that position and keep them back. So what's the best way to stop that? A lockdown. Flush them out from sight instead. And even if they can move one weapon, which they were capable of doing last round, what's the chances they can do all of it? And if they wanted to extend for the second weapon that was dropped just behind dugout, that's at their discretion, right? They didn't have to. The Sheriff can do plenty fine in that post plant, so there's no real harm or foul. As the operator in this series is now obviously off to a solid start. It was a little tumultuous of a journey in the previous series. We had just a little bit ago, but it gets the first in this round and secures Cumberland Phoenix a solid start, with Shooter being the proprietor of that success.
And as you see now, the concerns now come from Baker College of really struggling on their rifle rounds. All 3 rounds that they have won have come from the pistols and that thrifty we just saw. But Demon trying to put a change to that, gets 2 there on that mid lane, and they now have control of the B site. Are they able to support on this rotate earlier than they did last time? Nami gets an aggressive pick to get the numbers advantage, and now Cumberland Phoenix will have to try and retake this with the op.
What a really rough way to lose a player's life for this retake for CU. 2 players back a pillar for Baker College. Just want to avoid the longer capability here for Cumberland Phoenix. Demon still has full control towards Link and will be a dangerous threat that Cumberland will have to deal with at some point, but they just don't know anything for sure. They'll tap onto a moment, force out the Whirlpool, maybe looking for a frag to Demon. There it is. Operator at range, and the team will make the call out. Yeah, this round is done and over. We drop 1 more weapon from their hands. We'll let the series tally to a tied 4-4. But past that, we just got to make sure we're not losing that tied man advantage. The 3-3 off of our player of FSAL getting absolutely eviscerated by a Phantom through a box while they're moving, might I add. That shot just goes slightly too high and somehow pips through to the skull on the other end. But Baker College are happy with the results, and we'll finally be in a spot where, yeah, we could lose this round and still be fine heading into the next, because we're finally getting things back into control in our back pocket.
All tied up now, and that final kill by Wadi there does not really hurt the economy right now on the side of Baker College, but yeah, it does keep it from snowballing, right? So now if you are Cumberland, you've lost 2 rounds in a row, and I see that they're trying to get aggressive mid, which is a really good idea because that's what they've been losing. As Shooter swings aggressively in ladder moves, gets taken out again 2 rounds in a row.
Map prowl, map control, Cumberland Phoenix, they want to be as diversified as possible when it comes to where they're laying these agents. Baker College now have 8 rounds behind them. Only 4 left, right? They have so many different genres of which Cumberland Phoenix have played their defense, and so they need to keep it a guessing game. They need to make sure that no matter what happens, there is no perfect explanation for how we're going to deal with the Cumberland defense setup, whether it be where these agents are in specific or the weapons that they have in hand. So move Shooter around, a lot like you would on Haven. Be as unexpected, as less static as possible, and try to get a first blood off of an unexpected view. And Baker College losing out on their KJ, I mean, it does hurt quite a bit. It will make a post plan a little bit less viable, so they may want to look towards an opposing site. They had an in view off towards A, and with that 0 point finding nobody for the side of Baker College, they may start to move one player out of the two that are holding on to A off towards B, or at least have them watch that door that's connecting the arch out through Link. Maybe keep them back as well. Demon has full visual, says no one's on A. Would we like to go there? I don't know, because we can TP just as quick back towards B, where, yeah, there's absolutely no one remaining for Phoenix.
Yeah, and so far right now, that's 2 for 2 from Demons. So able to sell and execute just off of the Dimensional Rift. 13 seconds left, though. They're going to have to get the plant down on site. And Baker, this time, quick to rotate. Have the ultimatum online right now to lock down all of the weapons. Shooter has the knives out, chasing, but Demon finds a pick, and Fate gets another with the classic. Numbers dwindling on the side of Cumberland Phoenix.
Well, nobody's watching Hall. What are Cumberland Phoenix supposed to do? What is Shooter supposed to do if nobody's cleared out Hall? J-Phone's got it, but it may be too little too late. Cosmic Divide maybe could set themselves up for something here, but you still need J-Phone to be able to clear out this direction, and you just don't have any idea about what you're supposed to do. Demon's the only one on Pillar. If you clear them, it's just gonna be the same problem you had last round. If you deal with the 2 players here towards Link, you just still gotta deal with Demon. FCAL off to 1. Off they go with their head, and Demon gets a 3rd to their name. Baker College are making a major comeback in this half. They start off strong, couple of dicey scenarios, but they are back in control, and Phoenix says, all right, we gotta talk things through. Let's get 60 seconds in the docket to figure out what we can do to change things up.
Timeout definitely needed there, as they gave up 3 rounds in a row after taking the lead. And honestly, something that I pointed out earlier on that first pistol round was Cumberland Phoenix's struggle with that retake. You're playing double initiator. You had the ultimate. They did not have weapons to contest your flood, and yet there was no initiation utility to come out. They did not clear halls, no 0 point to clear halls, and they were able to get these picks using free weapons. That honestly put them in such a huge disadvantage, not being able to capitalize on that ultimate and losing the numbers advantage after Shooter gets that early pick. It really hurt them, and by the time they were actually able to clear any of the angles, there was only about 10 seconds left for them to defuse the full spike.
Does look like Baker has done their homework for this map. Just trying to make sure that they found a map that was bad for Cumberland Phoenix, like I mentioned previously in that ban phase. We were highlighting it in the veto. This is arguably the weakest, if not just one of the weakest maps for them. Giving up quite a few rounds to comparatively bad teams, but it typically came off of the struggles they had on defense. And getting 4 in this is not too bad for Cumberland, but Baker College can make this a whole lot worse for wear if they continue with the tempo right now. And I think that's the name of the game for them. Start off strong, get those first few for freebies. Yeah, Cumberland can get a little bit good, find themselves some value, but like I had mentioned, there's only so many different ways they could play. The depth of the strat book will be tested, and Baker College are starting to read into it exceptionally well. And it's just a matter of time until Cumberland go, okay, we just got to start throwing things at it and hope the wrench sticks into the wall. We threw it hard enough to find something to work out. As another different style of approach here for Baker College. Leave spike back towards attacker spawn. Don't put anybody in A main, and have 3 players here in courtyard that are taking as much time as possible away from the bank and the hole towards art, and they want to burn as much utility as Cumberland Phoenix are willing to give up in this versatile utility trade, and maybe a frag, as Nami was hunting for that one, and JP will be given the free space to get behind Pillar, but hesitated. Come on, it's a free kill for Baker College.
And I think that's just some anxiety there, not really trusting J-Phone to hold their angle for them, and they just were a step slow behind the Pillar. Now J-Phone trying to peek out, gets the revenge frag, evens up the numbers here, but this might be just enough for Baker College to execute now that Vice is gone.
Second smoke also down. This is a way to close off and ensure that J-Phone can stay alive. Shooter, really close call with that op shot, but Demon does go down. Cosmic Divide as well. Smoke will dissipate in mere moments, but Cumberland Phoenix need to play as close as possible to this bubble in hopes that no one spots them. Pop flash, really good. And J-Phone will have to hesitate close to the wall, waiting for any chance of an audio cue. Nothing going the other way. One player back hall. Spike goes down. Salvos were a little bit slow here, and J-Phone's going to have to move and will be kept back from initiating because the fact that Salvos came slow. As Nami lines up too. Wadi and Shooter can't be so simple like that. It's a 2v2 now in a post-plant scenario. The offense quickly turns to the defense, and it's a slow prey in once again for the Astra of Cumberland Phoenix. You have to be a little bit more efficient in the step through. FCAL hiding out. One chance, gets an alley player, but can't take down ladder moves. J-Phone now knows they're there, will send out a 0 point, will suppress, touches onto Spike, hopefully to force this KJ to step towards them, but ladder moves isn't falling for it. Knows to hold back. What could they do in this spot? J-Phone has to win the fight, and though they will, time will be tight, and J-Phone knows they can't do it. It's 6 for Baker College.
Nami, they're pulling one out from the trenches with that 2K, trading out the KO that got taken down by Shooter. And this time ladder moves, while they were lurking mid, they were able to rotate into that link much earlier, and that allowed Nami to just focus on one solo angle, not having to worry about anybody else sneaking up onto that Halls angle there. And well done, well played by ladder moves there, not buying the fake and just waiting out their time, being patient, checking at the very end to make sure that there was not enough time for Cumberland Phoenix to win the map. I mean, around actually, but it's a little concerning that out of the timeout, they weren't able to convert on a buy round, and it looks like there's a bit of a broken buy coming out from the side of the Phoenix.
Good teams will not just look to the next round in a timeout. They'll look on past it, though there wasn't really, and still isn't, much remaining for this half. 2 rounds, one of which is including this one. Well, that's just 3 you have to think about if you're Cumberland Phoenix, and you have to be ready to play into both. And this is a poor attempt from Wadi and FSAO. You maybe had a chance to get at least one there for a 2-for-1 with Shooter finding ladder moves, and now with JP taking down Demon, you would have been in a much better position to stamp your foot for the round in an eco, or a thrifty, technically speaking, against this Baker College roster who has just barely the edge over you right now. The Baker College, off of the success of 2, off towards A main, they take the gamble, they say there's likely no one on A, so let's go for the commit. But J-Phone once more. Shot with a Guardian off with Nami's head. No command out. Rice has to look 2 directions, and they'll trade JP for J-Phone any day of the week. And it's a 2v1. J-Phone still watching. Cubby flash. Fate has to take a step down here. Wants to edge closer and closer, but J-Phone's got the cover. They'll get both! No way for Baker College! J-Phone and Shooter line up, and it's 7 to their name. They go positive guaranteed.
Oh, and that's just unfortunate timing coming out from the side of Shooter and J-Phone. I think they played that perfectly, honestly, right? Because J-Phone was there to hold that close angle in case they swung, and they were able to get alive with the first headshot being a wall bang. And Shooter did the exact thing that they needed to do, which was swing and trade. Unfortunately, they just lined up for a double headshot, and man, I really think that Fate was on Fate's side there as they were able to sneak away with that round.
Sometimes you have to have more than just father time and a little bit of lady luck on your side, right? Sometimes it can turn into a 7v5 or an 8v5 if the Fates join in as well. Baker College, though, they're plenty happy with this half result already. They'd like to get it to 8. Cumberland Phoenix, I say comparatively, are pretty good at on attack for this map, though obviously pretty good for them is a lot less than they would like in comparison to some of their other maps in their repertoire. But it's still a recoverable position to work from, and they are the higher seeded team, so statistically, you would argue they should be favored, but Baker College are nothing to scoff at. It's only a difference of 3 in the overall seeding. And Phoenix has lost to teams that they knew they could beat, so it very well could turn into the exact same thing, like Western Virginia, right? Like they did not expect to face a loss, but they are a team that thrives in best of 5s apparently, and if they, even though they can't win 3 BO3s, they can win a BO5 pretty quickly afterwards. FSAO forced to take a couple steps back. JP has cover for them. This is where you're in the stall game for Phoenix, making sure all of these smokes go down, like burn out as much utility as possible. If you're Baker College, you're happy for it, but problems are coming through, and it's going to be a 4v5 for this retake if players are having connection problems still.
Tough time to have connection problems there. You really want to make sure that you get this 5th round if you're Cumberland Phoenix. Rice Ballin finds the first pick onto J-Phone in there, opening up the site for them. That's a no command offline now. And we see JP now lurking into dugout area, spraying through for the bomb plant just to even up the numbers. Time dwindling here on the side of Baker College. They need to try and get this plant down. Ladder moves finally able to get it down and survive. So 4v4 on this retake. Nami gets a pick on the flank. How did they get back there? JP though trades out. So still, it is going to be a 2v3 since we have one AFK. Shooter comes back now on the flank of their own.
No,
do they find Fate? Fate reconnects at the right time, but it's too late. Shooter already gets the pick. JP there, really the hero, buying so much time and getting so many frags there for Cumberland Phoenix. So they avoid disaster. It's 5-7 there on the defensive half. Pretty good for a map like Pro.
If you don't want to disconnect in the middle of your matches, a lot like we're seeing right now, being so troublesome for the Baker College side, then maybe you should check out Exit Lag. It ensures a better and faster connection routes to all your game servers, but especially so for Valorant. It eliminates connection issues with a single press of a button. Take your connection to the next level and try to stay consistently in your matches. Well, it's a problem that plagues all online shooters, Jackson, but there are definitely ways to try to help alleviate those concerns and problems, and Exit Lag is definitely one of them. And also, if you can make it through all these problems and all the way through the championship ringer, you could get into the final, and that's on land, baby, so you don't even have to worry about the connection problems that could plague you. And a lot of teams swear, they swear that they are a LAN roster. They always think, well, fight us on land, take us on land, we'd win that any day of the week. That was proven to be still a difficult battle just last June/May when we had the previous CVAL finals.
And you have to, well, first you have to get to land, right? And in order to do that, you got to make sure that you're winning out all of these, I guess, online matches. If I'm any of these players, we've seen disconnection issues come from both sides of the team. After this game, I'm getting Exit Lag right away just to secure it. Make sure that that does not happen again.
Oh my goodness. And we saw a big discrepancy for this map at the end of the first half in the previous series, where certain players were kind of lagging behind Guck or Gucci, whichever side it is, right? They were having problems. They eventually started to clean up a little bit. But it's almost the same story, right? Your controller right now for Phoenix, that being FSAL, is struggling to find as much impact when it came to their defensive side of things. They needed to stay alive, but it felt like every time we saw them transition for a retake, Jackson, they fell apart. They were almost the first one to die immediately, and they should have been the last one close to sight, so they should have even been a potential point for concern. But Baker College do what Baker College do. Tons of map control, lots of prowling, a player off in no man's land. Nami, last round, you screamed it from all the way on the flank. How did they get there? They prowled all the way through Link. They stepped into sewer. They went to defender spawn. They played the long con. Even when your team is down a player off a disconnect and it's essentially a 3-player rush through a single archway that is a main, they still let Lamy off on the leash, let them move around the map, shut down important pivotal players, and essentially ensure that Cumberland Phoenix could never sit or rest on their laurels. And the only way that they found control in any semblance or fashion was when Shooter plays into the flank and does the exact same thing back the other direction. And that's where we're hoping to see both sides kind of evolve that level of play, evolve that style throughout the remainder of this half. Because if you're Phoenix, you know they did that, and so you're looking to also bring it in. And for Baker College, yeah, sometimes the thing that you're best at can also be your undoing, shockingly enough. So you're really looking to shut that down and make sure that that statement can't become true.
And honestly, what I saw coming out from Cumberland Phoenix that got them those 4-round wins in a row that they had earlier in the half was this contention for different points of the map. We saw them fight for A main, we saw them fight for mid. Every time they were able to take some space away from Nami to just lurk throughout the whole map, they were successful. So I really want to make sure that that carries over into the next map. Even if they does play a little differently, the philosophy is still there. Here, what I want to see from Cumberland Phoenix on the attack side is I want to see Shooter continue to be aggressive. There's so many times when your duelist player is a lot more aggressive on defense, and then when it comes time to execute, they're a little scared to W key onto the site. And I really hope that that doesn't happen for Shooter. I hope they continue to shoot.
Well, whether you consider Phoenix get gifted that round in a silver platter with the DC, or you think that Baker College may have already lost that round anyways with the troublesome position they were in, no matter the case, it's a 7-5 split as we jump on over to our second half and officially get this timer rolling once again. And for Phoenix, like you said, Shooter needs to be as effective as they were previously, but at the same time, you have to have somebody willing to be able to follow through on that, because Shooter will likely lose their life on these rushes in towards site. Probably 6 out of 12, if not like 8 out of 12 of these rounds, right? It's just going to be the name of the game for a duelist. Sometimes they'll fall into precarious positions. That's why Yoru, who can be more unexpected, more versatile, shocking to a defender's sightlines because they're TPing every which way, right? That's why they have a lot of value for this map, and their mobility overall is so much higher with these TPs. But a Jet can tailwind in, and a Jet can be super strong, but Demon shuts that down, out-duelisting their duelist, and then a little bit of a matchup. A great flash from J-Phone. The pot flashes have been very clean on the KOs all day. Fate gets 2, but eventually gets refragged by FSAL, and it's a 2-on-3. Baker College in the lead for the brawl now for the retake on site. A jump far away, forcing FSAL to turn. Slow engagement from Nami, but Wadi still has a plenty fine shot to get themselves another, because ladder moves stepped out a bit too soon. And and Nami
Oh.
goes down just the same. Phoenix saved in the 13th round of this series by Wadi using the Ghost at quite the distance, and ladder moves trying to set up utility, maybe a little bit past its due date.
Nami has been playing well, but that might have been a questionable decision. There's so much time to work with, right? And they had control of the spike. Wadi had to push all the way into dugout there. So I really think wait for a cooldown, maybe reposition with a fake smoke, just something. But Wadi, they're finally able to save a round for the side of Cumberland Phoenix. And just wanted to highlight real quick, Wadi has been going crazy, leading this team in both kills and ACS throughout this tournament. So definitely having a hand in every single round, as we saw there.
You're likely to see the Tejo go crazy for Cumberland Phoenix. When there's a Vice in play, they work so well together. A tandem duo of utility. Their effectiveness is nearly doubled individually or together when they're both in play. And this is where Cumberland Phoenix really love to see it. They're also likely to see that over towards Lotus. It's just the super strong value, being able to use the salvos on offense, cut down a player for the retreat. If they're trying to escape from the salvo, you're also going to have to deal with the damage that comes from the vines on the floor below you. It's so powerful, and it also is an extra initiator that has a flash, because there's a sentinel with a flash, right? There's so many extra steps when you're having to worry about a KO pop flash now being so much more viable in the current state of the game, with an arc rose out the other direction, nowhere to run with a Teo salvo. You're forcing them into sight lanes that are under your control in the offense. Assume that Cumberland Phoenix's offense will be a little bit more effective on flushing players into directions that they feel they're under control with, in comparison to Baker College's, who are much better at just flushing players out and getting easy frags by having crossfire staged up because of a Yoru TP. But it's an A-site take for the most part on a bait. J-Phone is all the way deep out, now close towards Art, watching that close link to A. Yeah, a lot of the defense is kind of bit on that bait for Baker College, but it's not as effective as we saw Baker College's offensive baits go. Cumberland Phoenix don't have to spike down by the time that they're actually making the rotate and staging now for retake on B. Instead, Baker College still have all 5, have a good spot to retake in from one player coming from Disco, and J-Phone actually coming all the way in from defender spawn and getting a freebie frag of the Bulldog just the same. The only question mark's going to be the one player now coming through B long, and look, 2 players for Cumberland Phoenix are watching that direction, waiting to shut down ladder moves, and it's done and dusted. Flawless in nature for Cumberland Phoenix, and you want 1 to 2 kills in the 14th round, and you find none if you're Baker College.
All tied up now for Cumberland Phoenix. But going back there, I think that's a very interesting decision coming out from Baker College to 5-man or 4-man hold in spawn. They really got no information whatsoever. I guess the plan was to try and retake as a team and have the KJ flank, but they just gave so much room for J-Phone to just lurk up mid for free, and that's ultimately what got them the win from Cumberland Phoenix.
Another thing to point out is that with the KJ, instead of something like a Cypher, you don't have a spy cam, so you can't get free intel early, which for this map is, you know, more default, right, using the KJ. But same fell swoop in comparison, the Owl drone for the Tejo Sentry, right, it's faster. You get more information out of the Tejo, and it has a little bit more effectiveness in the overall state. So you're looking at a Baker College side that will be a little bit tough to, in good time, you're already late to a site retake, to gather enough information to feel really strongly about what you want to do, because you also need to get the lineup for the recon dart to try to pulse out where offense are currently lying in the retake. So Baker College need to sniff a lot of those problems in the bud, and if they can't, Cumberland Phoenix will now go from a deficit at halftime to now being tied, and maybe you know, go an extra step beyond, as here comes that drone all the way in through A main, and you've given away everything. Nobody's there for Baker College.
Now off of that information or misinformation, they're gonna rotate back the spike over to the B side. Hopefully that tail drone was enough to draw rotates. As you see now, B is the weaker site. See Vise slowly lurking up, probably about to make contact with Nami in just about a second. The smoke will go up, but on the other side, Demon finds the pick on a lurking shooter. They're just alert though. The execute's coming over onto the B side. Nami finds one, gets the support that they need, but they will get taken out. Wody and FSAU take 2 down. They'll get the plant and be able to recover some weapons, but HP low on the side of Wadi here as they try to play this post plant.
Yeah, shock darts trying to flush them away. Now a fragment. Oh, you had to peek that if you're Wadi, but FSO was a great angle. Just needed to not shoot above the head there of the Yoru of Demon. And they'll pay the price. Eighth round now for Baker College. A wonderful retake, all things considered. Yes, it did cost them an ultimate to do so, but you're still happy with the results. You needed to get a foothold. You needed to hold on to weapons. You needed to make sure that this round was as effective as possible, considering the complete lack of success you had the one previously. Because you're now stepping into the fourth round of the half with two players that will be a little bit more pressed in terms to buy out their full eco, their kit, as long as a weapon. And so because of that, they'll make a sacrifice in ladder moves department, a judge, and they'll have to keep that KO in a very close space. So they'll either be off here towards connector, watching the doorway in towards split, or they'll leave them close towards art. No matter what it is, Baker College will be one player effectively short for a long-range fight, and Cumberland Phoenix will have absolutely everything they need. Proper rifles, actual full credits, as much utility as you could ask for, alongside actually having full armor instead of regen shields. They are going to stage up, get as many kills they can, and helpful with the utility department as Shooter. That's what Shooter needs to do. Gets that first blood and shuts down a Yoru who could have had a free TP out. And here's the combo for your Teho and Vice. You're stuck in the thorns if you want to escape. Fate's already down to 77 HP. Did not get flushed out. Slow from Shooter, shockingly. The Armageddon got damaged, but not enough to be any point of emphasis. But Phoenix are at least able to get the spike down. And it'll be a slow stage in for ladder moves, who has a judge and just can't fight that thanks to that.
Shooter there, taking advantage of all of those situations. Finds 3 on the board right now. Will get pinged out as Rice balling and Nami try to do this 2v3 retake. Nami hearing all the steps. They will get Shooter, but JP trades them out. It's going to be Rice balling now left in the 1v2. I believe they only have a shock dart on hand. Recon dart not going to come back in time. It's just so much utility that they have to try and fight through. See the gravity well. FSAU not peeking. The well missed, but they don't know that. Rice balling pushes Art, gets the pick onto JP now in the 1v2, has no idea where FSAU is. Deduces that they're perhaps main, but they had to stick. I don't even think they had enough time to defuse the bomb. FSAU there to close out the round and even things up for Cumberland Phoenix.
They get a round win. Tie this thing up again. Round and round the merry-go goes, and unfortunately, looks like we're about to see the same thing. Or sorry, I should say fortunately. That last series was great. About to see the same thing we saw in the previous series. A very close overall map of Pearl, which is something that a lot of Cumberland Phoenix people who know their roster and know how they play in this map maybe weren't expecting, with how tumultuous this map can be for them overall. But they've always been able to pull things out in the end. And that's going to be where Baker College have to step up with their game. This round, though, how many questions are on the docket? Didn't have the best of ecos going into it, so they may have to make a couple sacrifices, just the same as the one prior. And the sacrifice from ladder moves ended up being a major problem for them, right, Jackson? The judge couldn't get the shot off towards Shooter trying to step into Link. They have to find a different variation, a different way to process this. And a lot of that's going to come off of the double tandem from ladder moves and Demon, but ladder moves was not there to help at all. Demon stepped up too quickly, and you lose a player off of a major miscommunication, and it turns into 2.
That was the hero rifle too coming out from Demon. And I don't think it's a misplay on ladder. I think it's just Wadi well aware of the trap setup that they were trying to do. Putting the missiles out, making sure that ladder moves would not be able to trade. Sweet J4 gets the pick onto Fate there here in Link. Nami there with the Bucky as well. And Cumberland Phoenix want nothing to do with these shotguns. But the recovered rifle by ladder moves will find the pick on the Shooter. Still numbers in favor of Cumberland Phoenix.
Going now as an ult command, though. We'll just go ahead and use it. Why not? Just get shots off for ladder moves. They're flash. J-Phone refrags. Knows that there's no way Nami can use utility that close to sight, but JP's been watching on the prowl. Now here towards mid, and it's a jump from Nami of all things. And JP goes, yeah, I've played Duck Hunt. I'll gladly deal with you floating about here. I don't need anyone to retrieve the corpse. You'll just have to wait till we get into this next round, because Cumberland Phoenix are now up to 9. 4 out of the 5 in the second half have gone to their name. And to make matters worse, it hasn't really felt like Baker College have a full, I guess, understanding of how this offense is really breaking in. A lot of the successes we've seen have come off of the individuals. Ladder moves in this last round, shutting down 2 on the approach in towards A main. A couple ones before, Demon being really solid and just getting lucky off a couple duck swings, and Phoenix not being able to take the shots in an effective way to counteract that. It hasn't seemed like they've found the ticket answer that can elevate this defense through, and Cumberland Phoenix, they're not a team that's going to sit back. So Baker College, lots of questions and plenty of answers still available with the lockdown, the cosmic divide, and a null command to counteract a push coming out from Phoenix as they are ready to go here towards A. Spike actually close to Art, but still possibilities to step back because they know they want to have multiple options in front of them.
Yeah, and this time Baker College playing a lot more safe, but still having enough utility to hold map control, as we see here. Haven't really given much up besides art there. As we see J4 gonna be lurking up into that link area, spots the Killjoy utility, and will be able to take them out with minimal damage. So this is gonna put some pressure now back onto Baker, as they have to commit a body to watching Link.
Shooter. Cumberland Phoenix going to try to bait out a couple shots. They want Baker College to commit for the rotate. Two have fallen back. Shockingly enough, it's semi-worked. Ladder moves will take a couple steps forward, and this is where that Teo I mentioned previously finds so much more. You're forcing players to sit in spots you want them to be in and where you know they're going to be in. And though Nami does kind of break away for a moment and get themselves a kill, it's still Cumberland Phoenix in control, now having that player advantage with the refrag, and arguably should have had control of it towards sight. But two players are slow to the tick. Another kill now for Riceball, and Wadi, who's trying to step in through Link. Doesn't have an answer. Tons of shots from Riceball, and you don't know if there's one off towards Hall. You can't really escape off towards Spike, and you won't be able to get a plant. Wadi just wants to try to survive, tries to stun. Fate can at least get the kill. And maybe you can have a sewer rotate here for Riceball and try to get in through water, but no such luck. Baker College, though, they get their 9th.
Yeah, I think that was around that Cumberland Phoenix just dropped on their own, as we see the timeout come on the side of Cumberland Phoenix. They definitely need to talk that over. It's another, like, the situation there was a 3v3, right? They had control of the B site after they got the pick off of Nami. And yes, Shooter hears all of this rotation coming from the spawn. And yet they decided to leave FSAU by themselves to plant the bomb in what's essentially a 2v3 situation. Wadi was not there to protect them. And it just so happens they 3-flooded out of heaven and got the picks that they needed. And it completely changed the situation around. Now they have time to deal with Shooter, who they thought may be lurking, and confirmed that they were. In a blink of an eye, Wadi was left by themselves with just 5 seconds left. I really think that perhaps they should have fought a little bit more together on site instead of trying to worry about catching rotates in that scenario.
And it's another state where you look at it and say the agent difference can actually play against Cumberland Phoenix. Seen a lot of success in the Terra and Vice. You can't really harp on that at all. But the duelist difference, I think, is the big one. If you're Shooter, you're playing as a distraction towards A all the way through Art. You have Link on that side. You're trying to get through to Connector, maybe even to Defender Spawn, which is eventually where you rotate it towards. But at the cost of that, since you're not a Yoru who can TP over to get back with the team by setting it up first and foremost, you are slow to get back to the fight. You're hoping your team can hold on, and look what failed to happen that last round, which means you're slow. The team is falling apart. No way to get in for yourself, and what's the next option in front of you? Well, a bullet to the brain, it feels like, and that's just going to be the difference that comes off of a Yoru to a Jet. Though there's been plenty of good things in front of Shooter. We've seen a lot of value from the Jet pick. There's still plenty of scenarios where maybe the Yoru would have been better. That's just one from we've seen. As look at the rush from Shooter. Bladestorm out, does get Riceballin. Wants to step into the smoke, knows there's one close, gets assistance from J-Phone, able to collect that Phantom on top, and now you've run a 5-on-3. Everyone with a weapon. Ladder moves was stuck in Art, pincered from 2 ends, one in Connector, and not sure what Fate can really do here because they don't have the best of straights. Down they go, and Cumberland go, okay, we gave you 9, but we're very well gonna pry up for a flawless to get our 10th, and it's double digits in the future for Phoenix.
Yeah, Shooter heard what we were saying about him lagging on those rotates, and this time says, you know what, I'm not going to lurk anymore. I'm just going to dive straight in there with the Bladestorm. Finds the first pick. Beautifully done, like just recognizing the Sova ultimate, locking them in position, and revealing where they were. So Shooter there getting that first pick that allowed the rest of Cumberland Phoenix to flood the site and pick up the rifles that they needed.
And if you're on the side of Baker College, the lone Astro, you can almost treat the remainder of that round as a timeout, kind of talk things through. You could also call a timeout right now if you absolutely wanted to, but overall for Phoenix, this was exactly what you needed. An eco round on the docket for Baker College, though, and like I was anticipating, they will still call a timeout. So they have like 1:30 worth of time after that to try to capitulate how they can improve. But a lot of the times we call double digits the checkpoint or chokehold, and for Cumberland Phoenix, it looks like it's going to be just the checkpoint for the time being, unless something ludicrous turns around to give Baker College once again a tied point in this map and get to 10 with really no eco to work with, but plenty of ultimates. And we saw that happen in the first half. We saw them turn an offense that was literally nothing in front of them into crazy opening kills and a lockdown that separated so many players from the weapons they wanted to strip away from them, and the eventual hold onto that site. But they're on defense now. It's a different game. It's much harder to keep an offense that's closing that gap already really efficiently, with Shooter that last round being the main proprietor of that. It's much harder to keep that back, especially when you can't even hold steadfast at an angle to fight back when you really only got sheriffs to your name.
Now, I think in this moment right here, if I'm Baker College, I really need to try and switch the pace up on defense. It seems so far the defensive plan has always been to try and set a trap and see if Cumberland Phoenix falls for it. But they're doing so well in trying to clear all of that trap with their initiator utility. The pace is even just squarely in Cumberland Phoenix. They get to control when they attack. They get to control when they use their cooldowns. And now I'm liking this from Baker College, posting up mid here, looking perhaps to get aggressive, see if they can get any early disruption.
They're taking the gamble. They think they're saving, so they want to try to commit. They'll fight up. They'll let everyone in the courtyard. This is where you have Shooter with a cross. Does go down, but a player, JFO, not too far away. Ladder moves with a frenzy, and they are snuck and tucked, shockingly enough, and Rice ball, and it gets another. Now it's just JP. Phoenix, they've fallen into the ferocity of Baker College, but that no way! JP comes out of nowhere, lines them both up. They're not expecting them to still be that close, and it's another spot where Ladder Moves is trying to do something, this time not placing a KJ turret like we saw previously on the A site for a defensive hold in the first half, but trying to collect a different weapon, and their gun's not looking up, and it costs them despite them being so good on the 2 kills they got away with in that round. But Cumberland Phoenix, they now get kills, they die for ult orb economy, and they still get the round win, and they were already plenty fine in the eco. They come out majorly positive at the end of that, and so they can just look to this round saying, we've got the Armageddon, this will clear out majority of the backside of A, or the players up in heaven that have been such a problem for us on B. They've got so many options in front of them. You could also use it as a way to breach through Art and the connector that goes from there. There are so many available options in front of Wadi. It's just a matter of keeping them alive, which you can't do for JP, because Demon gets the first blood.
Oh, man. And JP giving up all of that space on B main. It's going to make things a little bit difficult now for Cumberland to try and take that one flash down. As you see, it's going to be an A split coming from Art and main. Majority of the team, including the Spike, hitting that Art side. Shooter's going to dash right in there and find the first pick onto Fate, evening up the numbers. Now, with the no command in place, there is no defensive utility to try and wean them off the site. This is going to be huge coming out from ladder moves. Do they get that late flank? But they're being pinged by Shooter and FSAU as well. They're aware. Shooter finds yet another kill, and now they complete control of Art.
J-Phone's got so many suppressors off that 0 point, knows they're all close. It's just a matter of keeping them at bay. And this connector hold has been gorgeous for the Cumberland Phoenix offense, and the 2 times we've seen it. Bad tailwind out, though, for Shooter. But still, plenty of utility. The Armageddon's here. They'll stick it. Not yet to have. Waiting things out for the time being. Finally will go down. Rice Ballin will likely die to this, but they stuck it half. Nope, they'll just go ahead and fall back. No problem for them. They've gotten it to half. Well, the salvos coming to keep them back. They're trying to stick it. It's gonna go!
Wow.
And even though it was dangerous, they still managed to survive afterwards and get the kill. What a hold for Baker College, because the Armageddon was too close to the link because they wanted to protect the players instead of just going, okay, keep them 100% off and ensure that it stays there for the long game and they can't fall back towards dugout.
Rice Ballin with the nerves of steel, sticking it to half despite that Armageddon. That's really what run them around. I don't think FSAU was prepared to swing in time, thinking that the bomb was still not tapped. And right there, it's a huge play coming out from the side of Cumberland Phoenix, but I saw a questionable rotate coming out from the side of J4 and stuck on site and just decides to knife out and run out. Losing the pick there, a bit questionable, but that's a big round coming out from the side of Baker College. If they lost that, they would have to face up to match point with another eco round. So keeping themselves alive and in the fight for just a moment longer.
We've seen them be effective on eco rounds, but it does feel like that's kind of the nail in the coffin. Thankfully, they're not there just yet, but it's looking worse for wear for this round. FSAU and Shooter each get 1, have full control back a hall. Cubby's completely yours. You got Link. The only place that Baker College can now step in from is going to be directly below from Arch's defender side or up above inside heaven. And though the shock drop from Rice Ballin does get themselves a frag, J-Phone was already low, and they weren't your primary point of hold for this site. The utility's nice, but you still got so much more in that back pocket. In the Tejo of Wadi can just say, I'm not even going to peek this all the way in from B long. We know where your two players are, and we can just lock down absolutely everything from here as Riceballin tries to do a demon. Crouch just around this corner. Shooter baited away with a force. 0 Point not tagging them. The Tailwind still allowed to go off. Riceballin looking to fall back with Fate. They both know there's no chance in this round in a 4v2. Yes, Cumberland are at match point in map 1. Not even their map pick. It's Baker College's pick, but at least they'll have a fighting chance coming into this next one.
Looks like they were trying to spam out, see if they can take these weapons off, which would have been huge, giving them match point right now. It's been tough. I think despite them losing that round where they tried to take mid on Eco, I really believe that that's something that Baker College should be looking more to do. None of these trap plays have actually really worked for Baker College on defense. They've all been sniffed out. They've all been cleared with the double initiator utility, and they just don't seem to have any control on the pacing of this map so far. It's whenever Cumberland wants to hit, wherever they want to hit, they're just going to do it.
Shooter will pop the blade. Storm has a shorty in their hand as well. Clearing away a lot of this KJ utility and learning where Baker College are moving from. You got Demon just around the bin, and Demon pre-fires with the Bulldog, but that's not a weapon you can actually use if you're Demon. The Bulldog's better than what they had. They only had a Spectre, and yeah, you traded, I guess, but it's not as good as it could have been. TP just a couple steps away. J-Phone slow to it. Demon's trying to lock in just beside ladder moves, and with this Astra Smoke placed on top of the crate, there's no real visual there for you. Security will force you to take a couple steps back and meander a different direction. That's what JP is doing. What a pop flash and gorgeous execution. Once again, JP is just getting eviscerated in these 1v1s on B. Whether it be all the way up towards Disco or down on site, it feels like there's always two there for Baker College. And even when it's just one, it's Demon, and Demon's not losing that fight.
Beautifully done. The setup by Fate there, and JP may have just tried to bit off of more than they can chew, not really expecting a second person there for support. As we see now, this lurk up onto A gets taken out by Demon. Ladder moves, finds the pick onto J4, and this was supposed to be an easy match point, Scott. I mean, this was a broken buy. We saw Spectres, we saw Judges, we saw Bulldogs coming out from the side of Baker College, and for once, they got aggressive. They set the tone. They did not allow Cumberland Phoenix to get into their little nerdy lineup spots or whatever, and really just set the tone from the beginning. We need to see that. Even if they don't win this match, we need to see that continue throughout the rest of this match.
Yeah, why did Cumberland Phoenix play into Baker College's game? That's really the thing that lost them it, right? You're in a scenario where they're kind of ecoing, right? It's a semi-thrifty.
Yeah. And they continue to push hard.
They're trying to control the pacing, the distance, everything, and you're playing into that? You literally just ate from their hand, and it was poisoned. This is the exact opposite of what you'd like to see from them. Overtime very well could be on the horizon. It's the last round in regulation for this first map, and Cumberland Phoenix of all teams, not their map pick, was able to reach match point first. They're being gatekept, and Baker College look primed to secure a chance at OT, especially if they're able to pull it on a thrifty like that. Who's to imagine what could come here for this next site take, which looks to be a pretty heavy hit towards B, as all 5 for Cumberland Phoenix are taking their way towards B long.
Yeah, man, I think this is something that Cumberland has not done in a while, which is just W key onto a site here. Nami, though, is going to be the site anchor. Smokes off early, gets spotted out by the 0 Point, and quickly moves into cover. Cosmic Divide being invested in. Nami with the fadeaway shot onto Shooter. Somehow finds that opening pick. Will that be enough? They will still be able to get the plant down, even though the fragment grenade there, taking a lot of damage onto JP. Ultimate now invested as well to buy some time.
You got a dimensional drift online here. Look at the freebie bits of information you're really hoping for, but it didn't do enough. It's already gone. Rose Garden as well makes it worse. Eventually all weapons will be back in hand, and Phoenix have a 4-on-5 lockdown. Placed close. This is going to flush everyone back, but you could tell the Cumberland Phoenix knew this was coming.
Yeah.
They can fall all the way back towards long, play to their advantages, and have so much more utility available because Wadi's all the way back towards Disco. Pre-fires through. They're sticking it towards half, trying to whirlpool them off. They're still sticking. They're still on, just barely pulled away. Lining through. Whoa. One more on. They've got the stick. No!
Oh!
Wadi with the salvo in the last final moments. 13-11, and Cumberland Phoenix pull it out on their opposition's map pick despite the adversity that they faced in the tumultuous first half scoreline and kind of the gifted freebie round of the last one, if you want to look at that way. They only won by 1, and that could have been enough of a difference maker.
Yeah, and honestly, that round started off pretty good in terms of game plan. They wanted to hit B. I'm pretty sure they were not expecting shooters to go down so early, but like you said, beautiful reads coming out from Cumberland, understanding that there was a lockdown available on the other side. So you know what? If they're gonna invest it, we're just gonna plant long. We don't need to peek. There's the shears, we have the whirlpool, the fragment grenade, the tail missiles. There's everything online for them to just delay the plant and spam through the smoke, and that's exactly what they did. Beautiful mid round coming out from the side of Cumberland there.
Yeah, and it's a closure for them, and I'm sure they're happy to have. Is there a third map in front of us? Will we see split at the end of the day, or will we see it end in a 2-0 series for Cumberland Phoenix? We head on over to their map pick of Lotus, a map that plays very similarly to Ascent, and that's arguably their best map, and that means Lotus is one of their best maps as well. Time will tell. You've got to prove us wrong here, Baker College. You have to now dictate and control the rest of this series, but we'll see that after a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Baker College now have to do what seems impossible and take down Cumberland Phoenix on their map pick. The difference between them on map 1, just a single round between that was needed to force overtime. The storybook has been written, the tale has been told, and now map 2 has to be where their fairy tale either ends or begins. Can they get the job done here, Jackson?
It's tough because Lotus is a map that Cumberland Phoenix is very, very dominant on, and at the same time on the other side, Baker College struggles on Lotus quite often. It's based on what I've seen today, though. Baker College, I honestly didn't think the first map would be as close as it got. They do tend to struggle a bit on the offensive side, which is very important on a map like Lotus. But seeing that they were able to win out the half on Pearl, I think that, you know, maybe they're just firing on all cylinders today. Anything can happen at this point.
I think Lotus is a map that is pretty comfortably Cumberland Phoenix's if they play to their strengths, but Baker did a great job, honestly, of counteracting the strengths of Cumberland Phoenix on map 1, so I think that it is still anybody's game. I think Baker College very well could take this map and force us over to map 3. It just is so reliant on them shutting down what makes Cumberland Phoenix great, and a lot of that's going to come off of what our agent selection looks like for this map. Cumberland like to go over the Omen, the Viper. They like the Fade alongside of Vise, as well as having things like a Raze, right? They like to play to the strengths of where J-Phone can be oh so impressive. One of the best games I've ever seen in Collegiate Val for Lotus was actually J-Phone's almost individual performance to elevate this team on this map. And Baker, they've got a couple ideas. They still love to have the Omen. We see that locked in. They like the Viper, though sometimes they'll trade that out instead to have the Breach alongside Teo and Yoru, but slight change overall, alongside the Vise, Yoru, and Teho, but slight change overall, so they trade out that Vise pick, which is super solid for this map, over instead to have that Viper, which is still a very good option for you, and maybe a way to stall things out, knowing how good this team is and how the Prowl is overall for them. The Snake Bite to completely cut off a corridor, make it so they can't swing, try to stall a push in through B, or even a rotate that direction, right, to give your team an option or a chance to go the other way. Waterfall Snake Bite towards back, toss in a Poison Cloud as well, activate it. You've now kept default away from them. It also could be a great way to cut off the possibility in a post plant, even a plant itself, for a seaside take. This is where you need to sort of keep the mind rolling and the brain kind of moving and hoping it's not too smooth, right? For your Viper, they have to be very versatile, and a lot of that's going to come off of counteracting what Cumberland do, which is the same way we saw them play really good on map 1 when they started to counteract it and then couldn't figure out what was going so wrong in the second half when Cumberland went on offense, and it felt like no matter what you really did, they still felt somewhat in control. And the hemorrhaging you did at the start of that half, losing the pistol, turning into eco rounds that shouldn't, getting close but just not yet finding that clinical edge, if you let that happen again, then this second map is going to turn into another problem child, and to be looking at yourself joining the likes of the 16 that are already there in the lower round, which will become 8 after the series this weekend.
I think that might honestly be the case. I'm not one to like count out any comps, right? I don't believe that games are won or agents alike, but it really does kind of feel this way. I think this reliance on the Yoru might mean that they are gonna give up a lot of map control that Cumberland Phoenix is able to do. If you look at all of the utility, those paint shells are gonna cover a lot of ground, and having that fade to play to ping out enemies through the smoke is gonna be huge here on what's essentially a quadruple smoke matchup right now.
I mean, you're almost looking at a quadruple initiator lineup overall for Baker College, right? I mean, the Yoru's semi-initiating as a duelist. That's why you typically have another duelist nearby them in a lot of ways. That's just where that value is for them. But the Fade is super strong for Cumberland Phoenix's defense. They can place that on offense very well towards Waterfall. That can close things out. That makes it a lot easier for your Rays to actually set up utility to Paint Shell Waterfall or back defender spawn, boost pack in towards Cubby, towards default, and get control of the majority of site. Shooter's role and responsibility is tough to manage. But it gets more tough if you can't keep the player count high, and that's where JP goes down. You did get a whole lick of damage off towards Demon with the Roomba finding a huge hit against them, but they're still alive, and Cumberland Phoenix will have to rotate towards A to try to help out J-Phone over here on this Vice and get there as fast as humanly possible, as the offense for Baker College not only still has the toxic screen they can set up and use as a way to cut off top of ropes towards back of sight, but also still plenty of utility for a pistol round of all things, as they'll try to either move as a point to force them to think it's going to a garden, or break down door and even step over to go for a B plant. Is it a trade for fights? And it goes still positively in Baker College's way, and you're praying Waddy can get 2. Look at that! Maybe more! 3, and it's a 1v1! A doppelganger matchup, and look, the rotate's already been made. You're close towards top of B. Spike will go down. Nami will tease it just a moment in B site, forcing you to make the decision, FSAL, if you're going to engage direct for a site and a retake towards B, or maybe hope that they're rotating towards C. Time will tell. Nami had a right click, but I don't think a single round of the right click from the Classic actually made impact, and it cost them the fight against FSAL.
Unlucky RNG there. I mean, the right click of the Classic is no longer the sniper that it used to be, and honestly, I'm not sure if early swinging on that A main to try and make contact there from the side of Cumberland Phoenix was the right move. I feel like they gave up a lot. And honestly, it came from heroics from Wadi to get 3 to really even out that round there. So I understand what they were trying to do, maybe try to even the numbers a little bit, but it probably was a bit too risky for my taste.
Risk sometimes is what's required, though, and if it doesn't work one time, doesn't mean it won't work another, but I will tell ultimately if that's going to be the case. Outlaw on hand. At this point, you just need to make impact with a single shot, knowing what's in front of you. Players deep into the back of sight. What an initial push through for Nami and Demon. Spike is still close for the door rotate off towards Mound. FSAL's there, though, and it's not flawless for the Phoenix roster, but it is as close as you can ask for. Only one player to be felled, and you'll still have the potential to collect anything that they had past that point. It's Baker College now that need to close into a gap and a distance, and they need to make full committed for armor because there's still an outlaw on the board for Cumberland Phoenix, and the player that did die still opts to buy. They want to have as big of a shot for round 3 as possible, and they're going to do so at the possible cost of the next round of round 4, when they should have a standard rifle and rifle round because they committed with such heavy rifle choices in round 2.
I do like this though, because you're on defense, so you can get away with some of the shorter range weapons on that 4th round if you aren't able to convert this bonus. But this is a very, very strong bonus at this point. You have about 3 Bulldogs, a Phantom, and the Outlaw online. So a lot of damage can come out, and already all of this A main aggression to try and take control of Rubble prevent Baker College from any advances whatsoever.
Trying to change up variation in height on the C side. Sit on wall, go to the rafter boxes, and hide within smokes, no matter what it is. There's the Guardian, a solid weapon choice, and something that was going to be easily in the mind for Cumberland Phoenix for where they wanted to hold at length, use that longevity advantage the Guardian has over other things, but you get the right player at the right spot. As for your Bulldog players, they just need to make sure they're able to play on a transit in towards an opposing site. Nami trying to bait out the wall, does so, but no, didn't get the wall down. Instead, it is a free push through for the secondary retake. Rush out, Demon has control now over C site. J-Phone, not sure what exactly was happening there, but Spike was collected and still held by Baker College, so they'll be able to rotate off towards C, and it's a 2-on-2. You don't know where the player is just yet, and you know no one's on A, and a close enough player towards B. That means when the spike starts to go down, that will scream to shooter. They need to make that rotate, and the question's only going to be where will you rotate in from, as the choice should be obvious. Through attacker spawn in some capacity to have off towards Mound. You could go through B to get there instead, but then door switch gets pulled and makes a lot of noise, but you'll take that decision and try to make sure nobody can sit off towards Mound, because JP doesn't have the best way to get in towards sight. Keep in mind, they only have an outlaw, and with the Roomba trying to go out for shooter, costing them their life, This round may already be over. Thankfully, a Bulldog has been collected for JP, but both players are sitting back behind. There's that snakebite I mentioned to kind of keep them quartered off to one spot, and JP's life will be forfeited by another headshot from Demon, their second of this round, and basically the sole proprietor of creating and engaging to give them a round win.
It feels like J4 just kind of forgot that Demon could still be lurking around C there, just jumping out of C sight without clearing any corners. I mean, they spotted Demon on the jump spot, so probably was not expecting them to lurk that hard. And that's really what turned around for Baker College there. Still, if I'm Cumberland Phoenix, I'm very happy with that bonus round. As you said, like, they can still force up the stinger here and still be very, very formidable on the defensive side.
They dropped 3 weapons out of the hands of Baker College as well, so tomato tomato. There's something to look forward to. That's the future for this. But Demon got so many kills and has been so good about getting the ult orb economy, playing that macro game, that they were able to secure an ult, the Dimensional Drift, but they weren't able to secure this kill until finally a swing comes back the other way, and J-Phone goes down. Second one comboed with Fate. They're the final frag, though, and JP falls apart. Cumberland Phoenix left with just 3. They've got some good damage across the 2 players, but is it enough to stamp themselves as a potential retake for this site? It's going to be in the hands of really Shooter at this point, who needs to wait for a teammate or 2 to now join them towards defender spawn and figure out the best way possible to retake this, as they could use the Garden to try to engage with an ult. That may be something they're looking forward to. Oh, sorry, the Nightfall, I apologize. Engage here to look forward to, but they just go in fairly heavy-handed. Shooter only gets 1. FSAL has to get a stinger, trading now a Vandal. But did they actually go through in time? There's Demon. There's the salvos from your Teo on top, and it's so hard to retake knowing that Teo's online. And now Wadi just has to play for time. Up above, tries to frag him, but Demon has been playing lights out in this map here through the first 4, and secures not only the round win once again off of the C take, but also gets 3 more pips back to their ultimate.
Yeah, that was going to be a very, very tough retake there. Losing 2 heavy weapons immediately from the jump. We mentioned earlier that when Demon 1 gets rolling, the rest of Baker College will be right there as they get the first blood, and they had somebody, I believe it was Fate, to trade out on that second one. I really think a save would have helped Cumberland Phoenix there. Maybe they would be able to pick up a 3rd rifle and go for a bit more of a fight here in this 5th round. But they got close. Wadi was able to clutch it out almost, but here we are all tied up.
Fade's a great counter to the Viper for Baker College. They're going to constantly place that toxic screen towards A, and you don't know what's behind it. It's a little bit too dangerous to try to play around it so much if you're on the defense for Phoenix, but the haunt over the top can make it so that anyone that is near the wall on either side will be spotted and can give you a whole lot of information, and it can stall. Baker College know it's coming. They're going to counteract it. They're going to avoid it. And eventually, when they don't avoid it and they go full heavy-handed into that position to rush through A, it may be a little too late. It'll be hard for Cumberland Phoenix to really try to move past that. But Nami does get first blood. That's towards JP. It's an eco round for Phoenix. Mountain play to try to keep them there with a salvo. You're anticipating, if you're Shooter, that somebody is going to rush you, but no such luck, because Baker College are taking the rotate off towards A, and they're going to go for an A-sided plant.
Yeah. We'll see now. Demon with the Outlaw opening the door onto Tree now. After shotgun to come through in that dugout area, J4 is going to get taken out. Now, with the 5v3 advantage, they get the plant down, and they do have the range weapons to kind of stave off this flood.
There's not much utility either for Cumberland Phoenix. There's not so much utility left for Rice Ballin. Salvo will recharge here in about 2 seconds, so you'll have that to stall. Shooter wanted to get a freebie off towards Nami. Knew they were there first, but the Vandal comes out on top and just couldn't collect yourself fast enough for that frag. Demon baits out a jump peek. Body though, and FSAL makes some payday, and oh wow, Demon tucked off towards into box right next to Spike. We'll get a shorty frag, and it's all up to Wadi, who can at least make this expensive. Another one to their name. This one, Rice Ballin. Peeks knows that Demon is there, tries to deal with them again, but wow! Demon has been hit or miss with the shorty shots throughout this series, but oh, they nailed these in this round. That's 2 to their name, though they will fall. It's a shorty. You don't really care that much, and you also, once again, got a couple more pips to your ultimate, which has been super effective for you throughout.
And just like that, the economy coming out from the side of Baker College, struggling a little bit there despite winning 3 in a row. A lot of it comes from the heroics of Wadi, just getting multiple multi-kills those rounds to try and keep the economy quite even. Now they have a chance to tie this up as we see the hit's going to come out over onto that C side. The Demon trying to flash out early, see if they can get any information. This is going to force FSAW back. Now that's mound controlled by Baker College.
Try to use the combo with the Vice and the Tejo to keep them back if they were to rush you. The Tejo salvos from Baker College, but your own Vice trying to keep your team alive. J-Phone been really good about that. He also had a dark cover laid in, and though it dissipates now, you still decide to go pretty heavy for the commit.
Whoa.
This is just J-Phone trying to do J-Phone things. They're so effective as a fragger, but I think Cumberland Phoenix need to respect the Baker College team a little bit more at this point, because they're winning out these gunfights, and that's something that you don't have the lap of luxury to kind of mention for yourself so far. As a great smoke laid up right in the corner up above on default, puts it in a spot where you can see the legs of a player peeking waterfall, and they don't really have the best sight lines towards you. It's a free kill past that point, and a plant on C that is nigh unstoppable, and there's nearly no reason to rotate to that side. You're going to treat the next 30 seconds as a timeout.
Actually, a great smoke. I'm going to use that for my ranked games. It's been a while since I've seen a creative smoke placement like that one from Nami. But yeah, this is going to be a save round coming out from the side of Cumberland Phoenix. I wouldn't even say this was a bad round coming from them. They double swung, and Demon was able to somehow get RNG body shot kills on 2. I don't think that's going to be something that happens often, and I hope that this doesn't rout the confidence of Cumberland Phoenix there. I do agree with them trying to take aggression. They have a composition where on the defense, they're supposed to be able to take control of these areas such as mound, such as rubble, and so far, I've really only seen that happen on the pistol round.
Seeing is believing. So we got to see a little bit more. It'll be a timeout, though, from Cumberland Phoenix. Now, not only did they treat that as a 30-second timeout, they're going to do exactly what Baker College did when they had that one save, and we're treating it like a short timeout in that 1v5, or 1v4, actually, if I recollect correctly. And now also call the timeout immediately afterwards. Use it or lose it, right? You have it per half, so might as well take advantage of it at that point. And for Cumberland Phoenix, I think the big things to point out is just how effective Demon has been. You've got to shut down this player. You cannot let a Yoru go 10-2 within 6 rounds. They once again have the Dimensional Drift. They've got 4 to 5 ultimates. Ladder moves is a single pip off, and you've really had no solid footing to deny the ult orb on towards C, which means that's a likely choice from the head there once again, just off the rip to get that, and guarantee that they've got 5 ultimates to work with, and a Viper's Pit is really, really annoying if you're on the side of Cumberland Phoenix and want to avoid having to step into that. Though you have a great counter to it, if you can at least figure out where the Viper did use it. You have the Showstopper online. A Nightfall could also give you plenty of tethers, which would be a great way to get into that space. There is possible counters, but the team is struggling as a collective. JP's 1-5. They haven't really been hitting their sight in a way that lets them counter. J-Phone, who was single-handed the best player I've seen on this map in a very long time for Lotus, has not been able to light up in the same way. It feels like they put J-Phone on a leash, and at least in my mind, it feels like they put them on a leash and not allowed them to prowl through map control. That'll likely change when they move over to offense. But Cumberland Phoenix, in the ways that they thrived, it felt like, despite how they played overall on defense for Pearl, we're seeing the same problems, but in even a bigger capacity for this map. A shooter, what a way to engage the Showstopper out, and despite Baker College looking so desperate into the depths of where Cumberland Phoenix's defense lie, they get punished for doing so.
And we finally see that aggression come out from the side of Cumberland Phoenix as Ladder Moves does find a pick for Constellation. Are they able to get Eddie more? It is going to be a 1v4 with no control of the spike. Now, I like the plan that came out from Baker College, right? They used the from the shadows from Omen, the Dimensional Rift, to try and get this split there. But it was a little bit miscalculated as we saw the Showstopper come out on the side of Cumberland Phoenix, finally taking control of Rebel there. And despite the crossfire split that Baker College was trying to set up, as Ladder Moves finds yet another. Still a lot of time to work with here, Scott. Let's see if they're able to get another caught reloading out in the open. J4 and closes out. But yeah, like I was saying, they were trying to do the split play. It just, the show was stopped literally by Shooter.
And that's 2 ultimates, actually, for Baker College that go down as well, right? Nami uses the From the Shadows. Demon used the Dimensional Drift. They get all the way in towards upper side heaven, towards rope, right? And get dealt with just next to box. It's so much for Baker College. I feel like they, proverbial too many eggs in one basket, then they tripped and go, oh no, all my eggs. Which I guess kind of fits for Easter Sunday, but not really the point I was trying to make. Baker College just weren't really ready for how effective Cumberland Phoenix was going to be. That was a lot more of what we saw kind of from Cumberland Phoenix's offense, and that's where they find a lot of strengths, when they control how they want to fight, when they know that they have an advantage in this next engagement. That's what you want to see from this Cumberland Phoenix side that is so clinically talented. But a great TP from Demon gets in just to a spot for 2. There's really no way that Cumberland Phoenix knew that was going to happen, so they need to look towards the next round for it. Ults for ults, though, and I guess they're burning a lot, and you could say, yeah, this is good, but you want to get at least 1 kill, and that's not even on the docket. No, barely. Wadi does get it, but that's hardly on the docket. And Baker College, so yeah, you just dominated this last round. Let's go ahead and throw that back in your face once again.
Yeah, beautiful counterplay coming out from the side of Baker College there. Just utilizing the Yoru teleport and flashes to get these crossfires that they need. I almost feel as if J1 should not have utilized that ult. If they were going to do it, they needed to have done it early when all of that utility came out from the side of Baker College, but just ill-timed and wasn't able to capitalize off of it. Now stuck on yet another broken buy coming out from the side of the Phoenix.
You need to see a whole lot from the Sentinel for Cumberland Phoenix on this defense especially. Though I do think that it'll be a whole lot more of a highlight reel on their offense. If J-Phone can't start to gain a little bit of confidence, that may not matter at all, especially when they come over to split where Cumberland don't even bring a Sentinel, right? Like, what's the role and response going to be for J-Phone? They like to bring out, you know, a Breach. They like the Omen, Raze, Teo, Viper, right? Like, I guess you could treat your Viper almost like a Sentinel, but my goodness, it's going to be a difficult and tricky scenario. But Nami will pre-fire through a Viper's pit. Down goes JP, who's already had a tough half to this point, and it just gets worse. Ladder moves is a moving highlight reel. 2, 3 now to their name. Down goes Wadi, and a single kill is all the Cumberland Phoenix are hoping for, and they're hunting like rabid animals, but they're being put down, and they're only left without J-Phone, who has, well, too big of an ask in front of them, so they'll treat this once again probably like another timeout and hold on to the weapon. Well, they'll run over.
And this is like, this is just like a warm-up exercise, it seems like, coming out for Baker College. Every shot that they shoot is hitting, whether or not they see the enemy or not. J1 now probably going to be in a safe situation or just try and play for some exit frags. But it's just, we have to remember that as well as Baker College is doing it, I'm not trying to take away anything from them. This is a T-sided map, right? And they are doing surprisingly better than I thought they would on Lotus attack. But if I'm Cumberland Phoenix, right now I'm going to try to make sure that my mental is still sane. I'm not tilting too much at the scoreline as J1 finds yet another one. I don't think there's enough time really there for them to defuse and win this round. But like I said, it is a T-sided map. They really need to just try and get their 4th round, and they'll be in pretty decent standing for this half.
So all things in front for Cumberland Phoenix. They're likely looking to the second half, but they have to survive the first. You know, on 7-5, I believe, was the split at the end of map 1 halftime, where Cumberland Phoenix then turned it back around on offense and played very good. But they also only got 7-5 because the last round, Fada disconnected and they were losing out on a KO. True. And Shooter went crazy to not deal with the KO and give away where they were, but get the secondary player there first before dealing with the KO, where the team cleaned up the rest of that A site. It was almost a freebie, and the difference was that one round, it felt like, for that map. 13-11. It was close. Way too close for comfort if you're Cumberland Phoenix, but way too close if you're Baker College, because that was your map pick, and you really wanted to come away with the victory at the end of it, how unfortunate as that is. Yoru clone goes in deep here towards B site. JP looking to either shut something down or not fall for anything past that. They want to get some assistance, maybe towards A link, as there are 3 players pushing into A main. Could be a great way to shut down Fate, the Tejo that's trying to watch this direction. Oh no, sorry, Rice Ball that's trying to watch down this direction. And there it is. Spike is on the ground. Fate will be able to recollect it, but at the same spot, you don't know if Cumberland are going to try to push back into that, and they won't. They will fall back wisely towards A, hoping for the long con of the round and not just a win condition of getting a couple kills here and there, which has been the ultimate problem child for them throughout.
Yeah, early pick from Shooter, forcing Baker College to play a little bit safer, losing one of their initiators. But as you see how Nami has lurked up onto that C site, they may be able to get a plant off of this and perhaps try to play some cheeky positions. Can they get the pick onto J4N though? That's going to open up the site truly. Paranoia going to come through from FSAW, and so far they are still going to be able to get the plant down.
3 players stuck in the back of site, though. Where's your 4th? Lapping all the way in, defender spawn, but they know when Wadi gets that frag. So now it's 3 stuck on site, not able to lead towards Mound, and they're all walking into the line of sight of J-Phone, who's built up some confidence. 2 to this round. Fate stuck. Trimmer in the other end, wanting to go for it, and J-Phone pads the stats even higher. finally getting confidence, feeling like they can take swings and get a frag or two. And in this state, 3. Cumberland Phoenix now at 4 rounds. 2 left in the half. They can get maybe a 5-7. If they go positive at the rest of this, maybe it goes a little bit better. But Baker College don't like that they're seeing these rounds eke over closer towards Cumberland Phoenix's side, especially in ways that they theoretically should have had an advantage for, knowing they're in a post plan and the agents that they have in their back pockets. So they want to call a timeout, talk things through. The responsibility here is that Rice Ballin's role is pivotal, and they can't get back to hold for a post plant using the salvos and the barrages and everything else in between. They can't hold back if they can't safely exit site, not knowing if anyone is holding Mal in the other direction.
Yeah, and this is where this composition coming out from Baker College really hurts. They don't have the Sentinel, right? So they don't have the luxury of just steamrolling onto site and not having to worry about a flank. Once we saw ladder moves go down on that lurk, it made things a little more difficult for Baker to try and commit to a mound play. They were forced to play on site now. They did not know where that 4th person was going to be creeping up on. And it's just having that anxiety of a potential lurker is really going to mess with how you execute your post plan. Shooter getting that pick early really set the tone on that round.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the ultimate move you'd like to see from the Cumberland side, right? Is getting these first bloods, controlling the macro economy, and trying to dictate the pacing, which is a big responsibility for defending teams. I've harped a lot on Shooter before. It feels like sometimes they don't take pertinent information they gain off of audio cues or utility exchanges to guess about where a location of a player is or anything of the sort. Last round was a lot better for them, and it's something that is going to be a little bit harder to divulge through with a dimensional drift. We don't get much information from this, but they're trying to body block as best as they can. Demon goes for it, shorty out, and what a gorgeous execution. But Shooter's still there for the refrag, and they did not clear that cubby, which means that FSAL can use door. Nobody in B main, and you've even got 2 players there to try to deal even more damage, and that completely keeps everyone out of C, and Baker College will have to lap away from Mound and now head off towards A, where yes, J-Phone is the only one here, but we've seen J-Phone be lights out, and this is not the player to peak when you know how confident they're feeling after the last 3.
And that was a very, very, very cute play coming out from Fate and Demon there. Luckily, Shooter was there to get the trade out. Now, as they try to fake through tree, J-Phone is going to get spotted out. Luckily, does have the vines to keep them safe. They're going to try and span them out, and they will throw so much utility over there towards that tree side. J-Phone quickly moves out of the way into safety. Ultimate online. Viper's Pit also invested as well. So this is a lot of stall coming out from the side of Baker College. J-Phone gets the pick onto Fate, though, to maintain the numbers advantage.
Unfortunately, you don't get the Viper down in the Viper's Pit. They were tethered as well to make matters worse. She didn't feel comfortable pushing into that despite the weapons advantage. Classics are hard to deal with a right click. Free gun, by the way. They can work just as good in some ways. But they weren't blessed by it 5 rounds ago. They may have a chance here. Shooter. What a move. Showstopper. I said this is a great counter ult for the Viper's Pits. And while it isn't the way that they deal with it, it flushes them out of it and can guarantee the round win now for Cumberland Phoenix. And they held off the defuse to tally things even higher for the players that are in need of it at that point. This could end 6-6. And with the map being attacker sided for a lot of teams in collegiate, this is not looking great for Baker College, and they don't have any ultimates for wiggle room in this round, but the same thing can be said for Cumberland Phoenix. But both teams have 1 player, 1 pip off. And Fade and Wadi as the initiators, these ults could be the make it or break it points for them. It's just gonna be a lot harder for Wadi to get theirs online in comparison to Fate's, because this team's been so lights out for Baker College, winning that ult economy and the orb economy off here towards Mound.
We see them fight now towards Mound. Shooter getting aggressive. Is going to get hit by the fall line. Won't be able to come out, but somehow they're able to protect them. FSAL also gets a pick as well. So 2 down early from the side of Baker College. 3. Look at all of this utility control that they're throwing over onto Mound. Spike has not been spotted yet. Nami's going to try and do their patented lurk. Will spot Wadi, but unable to get any picks there. So Cumberland Phoenix wisely pulls back to maintain the advantage that they have.
They know they've got this round in the bag. They just need to hold on to it. Layer some dark covers. That one placed just above box. So you have that one way for the reproach. FSAL can lock that down entirely by themselves now. They don't really have an initiator anymore if you're on the side of Baker College. They can't flash that way to kind of counteract and keep your sightlines away from it. And even when they did, having the Teo, it didn't work, right? They didn't have a flash nearby with the breach. It wasn't effective at least enough, and the salvos didn't keep them off a mount. It just pushed them on a mount, and they were a lot more effective in the fight there. So problems. And the 6th round for Cumberland Phoenix looks to be on the horizon. His ladder moves is the only one here. Will bait out the wall from the Vice. So J-Phone, and we'll try to move this spike in a spot that maybe is a little more unexpected. They'll use up their thorns, and ladder moves is hoping that there's something new to come in front of them as they are stalled by their Viper screen, the toxic screen, and hoping that maybe Shooter won't ring around the rosy then through that door. But it's no chance for it. 4K for Shooter in the last round of this half does not end on a connection issue, but that doesn't mean there aren't connection issues out there in your gaming scene. And if you want better connection overall and you want no lag, no limits, check out Exit Lag. It ensures better and faster connection routes to game servers. It eliminates connection issues with just a single press of a button. Take your connection to the next level with Exit Lag.
Scott, I think they took my advice.
Yeah,
in between the break. Yeah, nobody having connection issues now. Everybody on that exit lag this time. So things get a little bit tricky now if you're the side of Baker College, this being a T-sided map after all. However, the one caveat that they do have is that they actually win about 70% of their defensive rounds. So we're going to have to see if this comp without the Sentinel can hold out on defense on a triple point map.
A lot of stacked up for Baker College. Pistol rounds turn into brawl for the most part on Lotus. And a lot of what I've seen from Cumberland Phoenix is just trying to send Shooter as fast as humanly possible in through B main and the team rushing to B site. But they play a little bit more stalwart, slower, long con. You're now off towards A into main and past the toxic screen layered up from Baker College. It's kind of just both sides trying to have that HP pool drain ever so slightly and maybe hopes that a Ghost or a Sheriff at distance can get the 1 tap or 2 needed to finish the job. Shooter is pipping that they want to go through door, and this would be a link rush, but very heavily countered by Fate. And pretty much all of Cumberland Phoenix was hit by that, bar a single player, that being J-Phone, who's waiting for the timing to swing through that toxic screen. And while they will pay the price of a little bit of HP for the moment at swinging out, the team overall goes very positive, especially with the paint shells to zone and control, cordon off the top of Upper Heaven. This is a Cumberland Phoenix now spike plant where your post plant control for Baker College is limited to none.
See now, JP gonna find a pick onto ladder moves, taking out yet another demon. Gonna try and make a different play here. Flashes themselves by accident, unable to get the frag. JP putting up so much pressure onto demon. Paranoia is gonna come through to push JP off the angle as Rice Balling gets a pick with the Ghost. JP unable to stave off Demon, but FSaw is there to save the day. Wadi now does have a shot onto Demon, and they will be able to win out the pistol round.
Man, Demon is so scary. It's ridiculous. Like 3 HP in a dream, gets a wallbang, assist to the second. This player just refuses to go down, and the issue is, you move over to Split, Demon's gonna be just as good. They're a Yoru one trick. They're gonna play Yoru again. They like to bring out Yoru and Erase. They rock double duelists for that map. So you're not going to be done with them just with map 2 and having to deal with the oh so big of a nuisance that Demon is. You also have to worry about who's going to play the Raze, who's also going to be sharing the role of closing that gap, fighting the fights first, and being just as much of a threat as Shooter has been throughout this. The pistol goes to you, Cumberland Phoenix. You now can enforce your role throughout the rest of this. You've got better weapons, but anyone that did hold back will need to play smart. And it looks like Cumberland Phoenix held back in a pretty large capacity. Both JP and J-Phone bring nothing to the table for this round, bar a little bit of utility, and it's still a Ghost in their hand. And they just want to try to win this in a fair encounter. Great use of the paranoia. Nobody's able to act fast enough on that if you're Cumberland Phoenix, but Wadi wants to engage through the breach util and gets paid dividends for it. 3 to their name. And you even won the fight off towards C with J-Phone, who I said was going to prowl, was going to lurk, was going to be let off a leash, and it's already coming true in round 14.
Man, despite getting the first pick over there from Baker College, at the end of the day, it was the difference in weapons that won Cumberland Phoenix that round. And plus, it was a bit of a throwaway. The strategy there for Baker College was just to push for a main control, see if they can get some guns. They got a pick, but there was probably more enemies there than they originally thought, and were not able to recover that weapon. But now, it's the buy round coming out from the side of Baker College. Demon playing true to their name, unable to teleport out as Nami will get a trade out. Numbers now evened up. FSaw gets a pick on Nami as well. So the hit's still going to be coming from the A side as Fate is going to have to solo hold versus the Flood right now. Gets the first pick onto FSAW. Can they find the next? No, JP to even it out, and this is getting very expensive for the side of Baker College.
Ooh, JP. A little bit of assistance from a Prowler up through staircase. Gets a free point to levy themselves onto site. Spike will go down. Planted in the same spot we typically saw go for Baker College, just on the outside of Hut. Not by box. JP will hold in for staircase. Both players actually coming here for Baker College. But the toxic screen could have been a major problem. You're going to go ahead and send the snake bite early. One player will have to rotate back up towards rope. Rice Ballin wants to get a salvo to make sure JP can't continue to stand there. And Wadi doesn't have to worry too much. No, they actually clear both sides. Lower rope just below and also towards drop. You get tons of damage if you're Wadi, but JP is so low they have nowhere to go into. They can get a ton of damage towards ladder moves though, and Rice Ballin just has to hold, but time is running out. Stuck now towards default. Tucking into the wall. Hut an impossibility. Just has to spray through the box for JP. Does he know there? They do! But there's no chance for the defuse, and Cumberland Phoenix, they rise from the ashes. It's a clutch win, and Rice Ballin still dies to the spike detonation afterwards.
The bonus round being converted by Cumberland Phoenix there. JP doing so much work on that anchor. Just finding the picks that they need. And listen, they're not doing too well in terms of the frag, but talk about impact frags, Scott. I mean, just winning the round on the bonus there.
Now you're looking at another round with Cumberland Phoenix being in the lead, and you break the stereotypical mold of Valorant. The 2-1 splits we've seen every time. It's now 3 in a row for Cumberland Phoenix, so we knew their offense was going to be good, but not in the capacity at which Baker College was incapable of shutting down. And that third round of the second half looked pretty darn clean. Even when JP is down to like 5 HP, it doesn't seem like there's a problem. And here's the combo from Cumberland Phoenix. Using the util to flash out, the fade so valuable towards Waterfall, let Shooter close the gap, then boost back in to get upper sight. FSAW can Shrouded Step as well. They close the gap so clinically that Baker College, even if they only lose one, which they have in this round, they don't really have a way to get back onto site super effectively, and the plant goes perfect. What a flick for both! JP and FSAW keep Demon and Rice Ballin at bay, and it's a flawless to this point and flawless in nature as a whole. 10 is acquired, double digits held, and the checkpoint or chokehold. Man, oh man, it does not feel like Cumberland Phoenix are going to stop, but Baker College got rifles in their hand for hopefully shutting down the 11th on the docket for Phoenix.
Oh, and we're really starting to see that lack of a sentinel truly hurt Baker College there. Viper no longer really able to stall the way that she used to, now only down to that one snake bite and being unable to move that poison cloud. So we're seeing now whenever Cumberland Phoenix decides to start flooding, there is nothing on the side of Baker College to stop that, to just mitigate some of that pressure and wait for the rest of their team to rotate. They're losing sites almost instantly.
There's a reason why KJ and Viper were the big two for holding down C in the old meta, right? It's just they were the best. They had the combo, the snake bite alongside the nano swarm. They just did so much damage. It felt like it was an impossible task to try to get through. And they dealt enough damage that the retake was that much easier. Viper, obviously, big nerf, and the change up for Sentinel options for this map means that you have plenty of options. You could go for a Cypher if you wanted to. Vise is super strong. They also deal damage. It's like having a nano swarm, no matter the case. They don't have a Sentinel to go alongside the Viper, which makes Ladder Moves' job that much harder. And Ladder Moves has been so good on the frags throughout this map. Unfortunately, when they're not, gaps are created, and it turns into more than just a simple utility issue, more than just a I can't move my cloud anymore, I only have one snake bite. What do you do past that? Nami will go ahead and use the From the Shadows. They'll get in towards attacker spawn. Wadi will be the first player to meet them there, but 2 players will go through Link, which means Door is on the horizon. Nami doesn't want to peek this just yet, knowing that likely story will be Wadi close by. They've cleared out all of Garden now with the Dimensional Drift. Toxic screen up, and they know there's a player here. So much stun utility, and it should be a free kill for Demon, and it is. JP's down. Comboed, taken out by a single ult and a little bit of utility, as it'll be 3 on 1. Taken down as Demon, peeking around the corner. Shorty's gone, but can't pull out the gun in time as Nami Vandal up, defuse through as well, and Baker College will keep Phoenix at just 10 for the time being.
I like that ult. I like that attempt.
You tried.
Yeah, it's hard to say like how close they were, right? If Baker College was not that pushed up already, not so aggressive off the moves of Demon, there is a scenario where J4 does get the ult off and is able to find the 2 picks that they need. And their economy is so good right now, like I think it was worth that attempt. And then we saw on the C site that we talked about how the lack of sentinel utility or lack of utility in general to stop the flood, it forces Baker College to hold much more aggressive angles. So I hope Cumberland keeps that in mind and are able to utilize their utility or even be able to trade out any of these aggressive angles and punish them for the side of Baker.
A lot of this map feels like you're so reliant on the Teo when you bring him that it's kind of this like monkey's paw, right? Like if you bring it, you gotta hope you keep them alive because their value is there on the post plant, whether that be on offense or defense. If you can't, what do? And that was a big problem for Baker College in the first half. I honestly feel like their offense was a little bit lackluster in some ways. That's why we see Cumberland Phoenix get so close at halftime, right? Because it felt like Rice Ballin wasn't able to stay alive in very important points or able to fall back in ways that would give them instant value. But when you can let them off a leash a little bit on defense, let Rice Ballin push forward, know you have the advantage, take a huge team fight, Rice Ballin does what they need to, get big kills, and it leads to a flawless round win. Buddy ace between the two, ladder moves, and Rice Ballin and Cumberland Phoenix are still once again gate kept past that point, but they'll still have rifles after a very solid start. In Baker College, defensively, are starting to key in maybe a little bit, which was the big thing we mentioned at the start of the series. They have to be able to read what Cumberland Phoenix do in good time because the team that adapts first is typically the team that finds themselves at victories gate first. Cumberland Phoenix was a team to do that on Pearl, and they eventually had just enough of an edge to close out without needing OT.
And this time, the difference with coming out from Baker College was the awareness that if they aggress and try to fight for map control, because they don't have that sentinel, they leave gaps in the defense, allowing for the enemy to sneak up. And that's how they were to find J4. J4 was actually in a good position to get multiple there to turn that round in their favor. FSaw from the shadows into spawn, checking on ladder moves. I just feel so bad for ladder moves right now because they are responsible for about 60% of the map when the rest of his team is trying to get aggressive, because that's how they need to play.
Well, now you got all of A side. If you're on the side of Cumberland Phoenix, you've cleared out pits. The only question is going to be how much can you lock down when it comes to escaping up towards top rope. FSaw needs JP to get this kill, and they won't. That's an unfortunate spot to be in. The Armageddon would flush you off of the spike plant. Time is not on your side if you're Baker College, but the win condition still requires the spike to go down, and Cumberland Phoenix are playing fine with kind of waiting things out. Demon's in a spot they can't go anywhere. They took drop. You knew that. The call out was made from your player engaging the 1v1 and JP losing that fight. The rest was just, where could they head from? And you know it can't be rope. You got to sell up there, so it's got to be downstairs. And it's a trickle game and a trickle economy. And Baker College, who felt like they were starting to finally see the momentum maybe tallying in their favor, it turns to more fervor from Cumberland Phoenix. They come out with a vengeance, and they come in with a pretty cheeky tongue-in-cheek style from FSaw, using the from the shadows into defender spawn to get a freebie onto A and do what you said, force ladder moves who's responsible for so much of the map to be relegated to having to watch their teammates inevitably fall at the gates into the site of A that they even used an ultimate to keep them off of.
I think even in that moment, you just don't clear. Like let FSaw just be back there, right? You can't. It's too much responsibility coming from that one player, and it's really like nobody's fault. This is just how this composition have to play. They have to take advantage and take aggressive angles in order to get any stops. And shout outs to Cumberland Phoenix. Honestly, it took them only about 2 rounds to make that adjustment to find those gaps and to play off of them. So it's really good coaching and play calling coming out from the side of Phoenix.
11 rounds under their docket, hoping for the 12th. That'll be match and series point in the upper round. 1 for them could already be this close to being over. But Baker College still have an ultimate in the back pocket of ladder moves, who's been lights out, a super solid player. And the few times they get unfortunate, like that last round where they do go down early, we see Baker College kind of struggling to reclaim that control. And essentially, you're having to treat your Viper as if they are a Sentinel, right? They have a wall. It's kind of like a Vice, Cope, right? A snake bite, you can kind of cordon off. It's like a snake, it's like a nano swarm, right? Even more Cope. Like, huff it as much as you want, but that Viper needs to stay alive. That is kind of the win condition for you. Alongside it, Teo also needs to stay alive. But Rice Ballin can get some good kills. They get 2, actually. Shooter and J-Phone knocked off and humbled. Layered down 1 peg. Nami holding into Waterfall is... should be a free frag, as 2 players are hit by the Rolling Thunder, and Baker College have stamped a pretty solid spot to say we want our 9th, and there it is, finally confirmed with the loss of life of JP.
Yeah, momentum still in favor of Baker College, despite Cumberland Phoenix putting up 11 there. I mean, this is like 3 out of the 4 rounds that they won so far. Really starting to find a footing here. Seeing a bit of a struggle in economy coming out from the side of Cumberland Photos. Not really, Cumberland Phoenix, sorry, not really any ultimates to work with here. So if Baker College is able to continue putting on these aggressive angles, fight for this map control, and ladder moves is able to really stay alive, not get caught up in any of the lurks. They may just have a chance at a comeback here, and I'm not trying to jinx anything, Scott.
Yeah, don't cast your curse already. That's that's ridiculous. They're not going to allow you to cast Baker College at any point in the future. They're going to ask for you to be on a different broadcast. I had somebody do that before. It's people are very esport people. They are very superstitious, as sometimes you should be. Sometimes you need everything to line up to come away with a victory, and we're edging into the toughest matchups possible in collegiate Valorant as we're into our championship series. You need every little bit of luck, every little bit of an edge you could possibly get. And for Cumberland Phoenix, default round out of all things from them is a little bit unexpected. But J-Phone way off into deep space. They've got Mound. You have a Nightfall coming in to try to bait away that it's going to be an A-site take. You forced 2 players on the rotate, one kind of lagging towards top of stairs, but you have not forced the Viper away. But this is where that Raze, a shooter, can do that nearly by themselves. No snake bites sent out just yet. FSAL will play a dark cover in towards the waterfall side, or sorry, back of defender side once again. Waterfall smoke will dissipate soon, and when it does, that will be a line of sight that's available, but the utility you're waiting for, the breach util, has to come out at some point for Baker College, and when it does, it's keeping them off the spike. J-Phone doesn't feel comfortable for the plant attempt, and ladder moves has a perfect lineup, but didn't stick to the initial shot despite it hitting. They just didn't know. Nami, though, gets there first. J-Phone has to get... Whoa! Right spot, the ladder moves, 3 for J-Phone, but Nami's still standing. Bad spot if you're Wadi, has to hit this next. Nami is 6 HP. And just needs a single hit. The shorty, and there it is! Keeping him off. Wadi can't stick that close, buddy, and it's now 10 for Baker College.
Despite everything, great round coming out from the side of Cumberland. They really tried to adjust and not play into those aggressive angles, even tried to sell a fake onto that A rebel site with the Nightfall. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough of a commitment to get Baker to really invest bodies to rotate over to the A side. They were able to stay over on C, and ultimately at the end of the day, they wasted so much time with that fake. They didn't have enough time to really get the post plant positions that they would have liked, and they didn't have the weapons advantage, so Baker College was able to take advantage of that to flood back in. Now we see yet another broken buy coming out from the side of Cumberland, and things can get dicey here if they allow Baker College to tie it up.
And around like this, where it's an eco for Cumberland Phoenix, a lot's on the line, but they have to step through. Shot great to Rice Ballin, but JP and Shooter are once again standing directly next to each other. And Fate has no problem getting a Colad on top of the Vandal. FSAL up above towards Heaven. Ooh, nice towards Demon. Spike, though, a little bit hesitant here to step into sight. They're not sure where to go. J-Phone wants a Guardian hit and will pay the price for the attempt with a lot of HP lost. Rose Thorn as well afterwards. Fate wants to try to go in. Maybe you swing far if you're Wadi. Maybe you don't. Gun barrel's been spotted, and I don't know why J-Phone's continuing to swing that. You got Wadi going on the backside. You're baiting, but Wadi didn't really give you any attempt past that. It's now a 2-on-3. FSO has 76-ish HP. Low, but definitely still a contending player. Wadi had a Guardian. Would have been great at that distance to play a little bit further away. Maybe have a Haunt if it was still in that back pocket. Who knows? They have Spike, and they can get into the B site for a plant here if they choose to do so, and they'll commit. Wadi now going for this just below a Heaven side, and you have a Waterfall player very close, and this looks to be where you want FSAO to get this kill. They're holding really edged in into the corner with a Phantom, but this didn't go exactly where you wanted it to be. You wanted to sit all the way in the corner. Unfortunately, you just couldn't, and that forces Wadi to prowl for a frag off with Fate's head. No more kills for you in this round, and FSAO wants to go in, needs to hold up and clutch, but Nami gets their doppelganger down, and Wadi has to get a 3K. Smoke above. Nami dropping down. Noise made. Shorty's there. Don't they get the hits? They don't have a chance, and Wadi saves Cumberland Phoenix, requiring 3 to get the job done. Match
point. Oh man, that came down to the wire there, and I know the shorty was good the first time, but I don't know if that's necessarily the time to break it out. What ended up being in Wadi's favor was that regen shield, because I'm pretty sure they called out that they had those shields, but was not expecting that extra 25 HP that really saved them from the shorty blast, Scott.
It feels like everything is being saved by like minimal margins. There's never a large enough gap to differentiate these rosters in a major capacity. There's a huge rush forward here for Cumberland Phoenix, unfurling this utility closer to Baker College, and they've really given up a whole lot of map control here towards A main. Nobody into Cubby towards Link Door. Nobody sitting on Staircase, which means they could have stack towards box if they wanted to. Instead, it's 2 players on site, one at Link Door finally being there, but it not being broken up to that point and then kind of stalling. You had bigger questions to be asked, but Rice Ballin pays the price. This is your huge post-plant agent. You don't have them anymore. Knocking down ladder moves, you have your semi-sentinel that's off the board, and you've got Demon who's got a Bucky and a Prayer with a Sheriff. I'm sure they're good for J-Phone, and there it is. You kind of expect it from this player. But man, oh man, does Baker College look like they're pinned up against a wall, and Cumberland Phoenix are pushing the button to try to win out this series in a 2-0 fashion. Shooter, showstopper. Okay. What do you expect? Nami will get the refrag. FSAL up, and Nami's all alone. Trapped into the back of Hut. Can take down JP, but there's FSAL. Omen on Omen, and only one can come out on top, and Cumberland Phoenix rise from the ashes of a somewhat difficult first half to make sure it's them at the end of the day. See you, Phoenix, are your winners.
Oh, very, very close calls there coming out from the side of Cumberland Phoenix. It honestly, the last round that they just won, all that came down to was gun advantage that set them up from previous rounds. Even though Baker College was able to win out those rounds and sort of hope for that comeback, they were losing so many players each round that the economy just wasn't there. And the moment that they lost one and gave up match point, they went into that with just half buys. They didn't have the weaponry to stop this aggressive push coming out from the side of Cumberland Phoenix, and that really was what cost them the game in the end. It almost feels like it's just like a stroke of luck that regen shield came out. If we run the replay for Wadi, I'm pretty sure he had literally 20 HP after those shorty blasts, and that was all it took, was that regen shield for them to win and get that match point.
Cumberland are plenty happy with the ending result. They maybe weren't happy with the result of CVAL South Grand Finals against WVU, so they're trying to make a statement piece here, and with the victory 2-0 in the upper round 1, they're sending the losers off to lower round 2, and you get to continue onwards. You're one of 8 teams that get to do so, so you are very happy with the result at the end of this, but there's still more matches to go in their future, and there's still plenty more matches overall for the weekend. We've got more coming up tomorrow, and Cumberland get themselves a little bit of a break to kind of think things through. We know they've celebrated before heading off to a restaurant. They had posted on their socials the other day. Whether they go back there again, I don't know, but they said they don't like any team that holds them back from being able to celebrate with the rest of them, and they made sure to get the job done in a 2-0 fashion like they have done previously before. And what a way to do it. If you lose out on your map pick against a team like Cumberland Phoenix, well, you better pray you can pull off the impossible, it feels like, on map 2, because they got a map they wanted. They got Lotus, and they sure played like they knew it was going to be theirs from the get-go.
And then obviously from a fan standpoint, I mean, both matches today were so tight. We didn't see any blowouts. Even the first match, we had double OT and it went into map 3. So it coming from like, these are teams, the first round, it's always like the powerhouse versus the underdogs. And it's nice to see that these matchups are so close, right? We're not going to run into any short days for you and I guess.
There's still plenty more Valorant in our future, but that's all we have here for tonight. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. Once again, another broadcast resuming 3 p.m. EST, so stay tuned. Tons of action in front of us, but with that being said, that is it for us tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name's been Infernosis, joined here by Jackson 5K. We'll see you guys tomorrow.